Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is Tuesday, September 19th. It's 11:11 on my phone, which is always exciting. I was fighting with the internet this morning a little bit to bring you the court documents and not just the news reports from breaking news regarding Alec Murdaugh's latest plea. I'm not shocked that he's pled. You're not going to be shocked that he's pled. Today's plan was just to cover his latest hearing, but we are going to go to South Carolina soon. Don't worry, we will hop on EDB Air and go to South Carolina either way, but we're starting in federal court first before we go to state court. So we're like just walking across the street. I'm sure they're that close together. Maybe not. But either way, we're going to federal court first to talk about Alec Murdaugh pleading to stealing from clients. And then we are going across the street. Is that Charlotte or Charleston? I mean, I use them synonymously. We're also going to have to talk about the internet real quick while Pacer is still giving me the business. So that's the plan for today. We're going to talk about the plea. We're going to talk about this new trial motion and the prosecution's response to it. Then we're going to go to Murdaugh's hearing. If we have time, I will get to Corey Fleming's sentencing. If I don't get to Corey Fleming's sentencing today, we will do that part of the hearing later. So I saw somebody asking, will I talk about Corey Richins Thursday? We got a busy week today. So today, Murdaugh. Tomorrow, there is a lot of updated filings in the blindsided case. So we're going to be revisiting the Michael Orr conservatorship and the TUI response in tomorrow's Emily Show podcast. Thursday, we've got some Corey Richins stuff to take up. And then if we don't finish the Corey Fleming stuff, it'll just be a day of Corey's. But that's going to be a bit of a shorter hearing just because, sometimes you need to, make a doctor's appointment and they're like, okay, your first appointment is 3 months at this time. Sometimes you just have to take it. So I have an appointment that conflicts a little tomorrow. Or Thursday. So Thursday we'll be covering that a little bit early. Are you on the Ruby Frankie trial? It's not a trial yet. Yesterday's hearing was continued. I did a podcast on that, and I will be keeping you guys updated through podcast. I'm going to see if this will work. We're going to try this in a minute, and we're going to talk about that. We've got to talk about the Roman Empire in a second. Y'all are going to be like, excuse me, what? Don't worry. Some of you know, some of you don't. So that's the plan for this week. Cheryl M., I have not had a chance to read the 120 some odd pages in the Delphi case. We have not done a Delphi coverage. That will probably be a podcast episode because I'm going to, as I do with sensitive cases, particularly with children victims, I'm going to decide how and where I want to cover it. It's going to take a minute. So for those of you talking about the nails, thank you. I got a new Starbucks. You're going to be shocked, but when I was in New Jersey with my family, I got a new Starbucks mug. I found it at the New Jersey is funny, but they have like rest stops in the middle of the highway. It's actually kind of brilliant. I love it, but it has rest stops in the middle of the highway. So no matter which direction you're going, you can just pull into the rest stop that's in the middle instead of needing rest stops on both sides. I'm like, this is really smart. I like it. So I pulled in, it was like 2 days before these were launched. So I didn't think they would be there. And they're all sitting there lined up and I gasped out loud. And my mother was like, are you okay? Like, boo, are you hurt? Are you dying? What is going on? So my mother is just concerned. And I'm like, the fall cups, the oil slick fall cups, they're there. They're here. And I looked at the Starbucks employees. I'm like, you have the cup. I had been on a plane. It had been a very long day already. I hadn't had coffee yet. And I was on the New Jersey Turnpike. I was like, oh my God, the cups are there. So when I slid in to get my nails done this weekend, I took the cup and I was like, I need to kind of just do this. And they were like, boo, we got you. I like it. So my kids are like, you don't need another cup. Which one are you getting rid of? I'm like, would I get rid of one of my children? No. Same. I'm not getting rid of one of my cups. So I couldn't find the green Halloween one I did not. I did not find the green Halloween one, but I found this one, and this is the one I had really, for me, this is the one I really wanted, was the oil slick kind of iridescent. It's got to be my favorite colorway. Like metallic rainbow is my favorite. It's absolutely my favorite. Oh, thank God, Pacer is finally working. We're going to talk about the internet real quick, and then we're going to get into this. I was waiting for Pacer to pull up this case, the federal case. The indictment, what we're going to go through a little bit of a road so far with the federal case on Pacer, and then we'll go to the plea agreement so that we're all on the same page. Are you ready? I'm ready. Are you ready? I'm ready. Let's roll the intro. That's not the right one. Podcast intro. Let's roll the intro and let's just get into it. We've got a lot to do today. Do I say that every time? I don't feel like we've had time to catch a breath. I saw some of you in the chat saying, girl, are we getting back to the sidebars? Yes, we're going to get back to the sidebars. There are times when the news is like moving very quickly and we need to do it very quickly. Angie in the chat just said it's giving Dark Unicorn vibes. That is the new name for this. I am changing it. Dark Unicorn. God, it matches my soul. I love it so much. So we will do another sidebars, I promise. It's just finding the balance between the cases that we're tracking really closely and taking a stream off to be like, this is a sidebar stream. We're going to have a little bit of fun, and making sure that I'm balancing those things appropriately, not just for me, but also for you, but also so I don't feel behind, because sometimes it's like, this happened 4 weeks ago. Do we even still want to cover it? Where the sidebars can wait a little bit. The sidebars we can kind of space in. We need to do another food court. I get it. It's like the Dark Galarian Poniata. It is. You guys make my day. I can't tell you how much I enjoy streaming. It's part of what makes fall hard, because the streaming schedule gets all crazy with travel and kids and family travel and conferences. The fall is always bananas for me, and I miss it. Like this is a part of my routine as much as it's a part of your routine, and my days are pretty set. Like Monday, I've got team meetings and recording, and then Tuesday it's live streaming, and Wednesday it's the podcast, and Thursday it's live streaming, and Fridays I do calls and meetings. Like my week is pretty like regimented in that way. And when I travel and stuff, it just throws me all off. And I love getting out and seeing people in person. I enjoy going to conferences, but I also then miss y'all a lot. So I need to make sure that you know how to stay in the loop for the fall. We have something new coming. Some of the members are in. The rest of the members will be on the members only live stream tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central. When you are on the members only live stream tomorrow, we're going to walk all the way through it. And then we will let the Law Nerd Alert crew and the text crew know. So we are rolling out a new system. If you want to stay all the way in the loop and be the first to know the things, free things, good things, fun things, lawnerdalert.com is where you need to be before I announce anything on live. But we have a members only live tomorrow, and we will be rolling stuff out on members only live tomorrow. So you don't want to miss that one, 7 p.m. Central. I have a busy day tomorrow, and then we have a members only. I'm very, very excited for it. We have lots and lots to share. So I said I was going to roll the intro. I need to do that still. We have lots to do today. Let's go. Hey there. I'm Emily D. Baker, the internet's go-to legal analyst, breaking down the legal side of the pop culture and entertainment stories we can't stop talking about. I'm a big fan of the cursey words. I've been a licensed attorney for over 17 years, but this is not legal advice. This is where the law nerds unite to talk about facts, not... Let's get into it. All right, law nerds, we need to talk about the internet for just a moment, because I'm obsessed and I just can't. Miguelina, we will chat about that. That shouldn't be conflicting. But we will chat about that. We need to talk about the internet for a minute, because I fell down the Roman Empire rabbit hole. And we had a Zoom call for our kind of 2L, 3L members over the weekend. And so they got to hear a little bit about this. And then the behind the scenes, the behind the scenes of the members only podcast recording last night. I talked about this a little bit. I've talked about it a little bit on Instagram, and I can't stop now. Now I can't stop. Now I cannot stop because it started innocuously. I saw the memes rolling around, and the memes are like, dudes think about the Roman Empire like a lot. And if you ask them, they're like, obviously, why don't you? And I'm like, this can't be true. And so I feel like I'm being punked, and I feel like I'm rolling around the world being like I'm walking the earth being punked. Like, why is this a thing? And why are also the men people like, you mean you don't? So I asked my 15-year-old, I figured this is a good place to start. And I asked my 15-year-old, and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, T, do you think about the Roman Empire? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, but like outside of like AP European history, like outside of which it doesn't, I don't think, touch on the Roman Empire. I'm like, but outside of school things, do you really think about the Roman Empire? He's like, yeah. And I was like, how often? He's like, I mean, at least a couple times a month, if not like once a week. And I was like, in what context? And we started getting into context, mostly weaponry. Weaponry that's used in video games, weaponry, that they discuss at school with superiority of certain weaponry from different ancient civilizations because we all need things to debate about. And I was like, huh, okay. So then I asked my husband. My husband was not present at, this is a fair point, Lori, or 300. My husband was not present for my conversation with Travis. My husband also does not Instagram. So my husband's not on the internet. So I'm like, maybe Travis saw the meme and is just fucking with me because that's completely within the realm of possibility and I'd actually be proud. So I asked Dr. B, we're like sitting on the couch watching he's watching. I am on my phone, but we're sitting on the couch in the same space as he's watching the CrossFit Games or something. And I'm like, so, Brian, can I ask you a question? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, 300 is Greek. Romans would be offended. Damn it. See, this is the thing. Maybe I think about Greece more than I think. So and also clearly the things I know are not history of ancient civilizations. Like my stuff stays in law. So I ask Dr. B and I'm like, do you think about the Roman Empire? He's like, yeah. Why? And I'm like, but like how often? And he's like, well, at least every other month or so. I mean, it comes up. And I'm like, it comes up? He's like, yeah, it kind of comes up. Okay. So then Delta emails me and asks me if I want to go to Rome because clearly they're listening. And they're like, picture of the Colosseum, like, would you like to Rome? Then there's a picture on the internet of Carter Beauford, the drummer for the Dave Matthews Band, in Rome in front of the Colosseum with like a giant donut. And I'm like, now it's infiltrating. This morning, before I stream, Judge Abby calls me and is like, so I have to tell you, I'm like, what did you do? She's like, I asked my fiance how often he thinks of ancient Rome. And I'm like, what did he say? She's like, he said almost daily. And I'm like, what? She goes, well, the influences in modern culture. And he had like an entire litany of answers. And this is what I'm finding with men. There's like reasons. I love that there's reasons, but there's like reasons. It's like, of course I do. Like, because this. And so I'm like, I never, like it never comes up in my brain. Obviously, I'm conflating Rome and Greece, and I am embarrassed. So you guys are going to have to ask Hogue about this. I asked Hogue about this, and Hogue's like, I mean, yeah, obviously. But there's other ancient empires that I also think of. And then I got like a ranking of Hogue's ancient empires and like order of thought exploration. And it was fucking delightful because Hogue. And so I'm now trying to figure out what the equivalent is. So as I was asking my friends, I don't know what my husband is doing, but it's very loud. And I'm like, what do you guys think about regularly? Most common was serial killers. And I'm like, hmm, mm-hmm, that tracks. But I have a lot of friends in the true crimey world. So I don't know what there is. But there's a lot happening here that I have fallen down the rabbit hole on. I'm gonna keep you in the loop. I have fallen down the rabbit hole, and now I need my brain to start separating ancient Greece and ancient Rome better. And I'm j- just down the rabbit hole at just an Instagram meme that took hold. And then I started seeing my friends talk about it. Of course, Hogue has a ranking of ancient empires. Yep, that he likes, that he thinks about on the regular. How about Ian and Rob? They wouldn't answer me. Rob said, not you too. And Ian started talking about something else because ADHD. Rob said, oh my God, not you too. Hogue gave me a ranking, and Ian was like off and away. And then Alita was like, okay, so yes, but also like my husband and my husband's family, and then kind of gave a breakdown of architectural fascination. So it was like contextual to architectural fascination. I'm like, okay, that also makes sense. Like, I understand the reasons. So, Lindsay, that sounds I have a new podcast. Fall of Civilizations is such a good podcast. That sounds fascinating. Oh my God, my husband said he thinks about it often, said that the US is on the trajectory to fall as Rome. So this is where a lot of the people I have asked are coming from. A lot of them are coming from that perspective of, I think about the fall of Rome more and more recently. So I'm very fascinated. And now I feel like I don't think about it. What do I think about? So now I have to be like, now I'm trying to evaluate what I think about in a day that are not these cases, because it's mostly pop culture in these cases. The amount of brain space Shannon Bedore's DUI has taken up in my melon is substantial. And it's a misdemeanor DUI. Yes, she's a celebrity, but I mean, when I was running misdemeanor court, it was like, these are 20 plus a day. I mean, the amount of people that drive drunk is terrifying to me and horrible, because later in my career, I ended up doing a ton of the DUI related fatalities, and it like broke my soul and made me afraid to drive. But when I was running misdemeanor court, it was every day. It was 20 plus sometimes DUIs a day, and it was just so many. So yeah, I need to I need to explore ancient Rome. And I also, here's what I love so much, is that it reminds me about kind of the neurotypical neurodivergent sometimes, where people who are neurodivergent are like, oh yeah, my brain does that. Of course. Why? And people who are neurotypical are like, wait, what? About all kinds of different things. And this kind of fun conversation on the internet reminds me again why I love talking to y'all on the internet, because we learn so much about each other when we ask questions. I would have never asked this question. I would have never asked this question to my husband if I hadn't seen like 5 or 6 people on the internet being like, have you ever asked the men that you know if they think about the Roman Empire? And I was like, why would I ask that? And then I asked, and I was like, what else do you think about? Like, let's have better conversations. Like, I'm now ready to get like, we need to start playing like the conversation card games more, so we can have a conversation. Like, I just needed to talk. Lindsay said, Hogue shocked, asking you, Rob and Ian, this is linear to you. Yes. You throw one person who's neurotypical into a vat of ADHD and let them watch how the conversation like just like serpentines. It's like serpentine. And then they're like, what? And it's like, yes, no, I get to a linear point through a zigzag pattern. Sometimes it's circular with loop-de-loops. But now I can't stop seeing everyone talking about this, because now people are asking about it. But I also feel like we need more moments like Tiger King, even though Tiger King was wild, where we all have something to talk about that doesn't feel as heavy. I mean, comparing the current trajectory of the US to the fall of Rome does feel heavy, but it's not heavy in the world of, politics and current events, etc. It's a way for us to have conversations about how we each think, what we think about, what matters to us, in a way that we might not have otherwise. So ask the people in your life, tell the Law Nerd crew, I'm curious. This is now a whole thing that we've fallen into. And I'm curious. I'm so curious. It's just happening. Is this a US thing? Is this a straight dude thing? This seems to span ages and races. It seems to have some gender span as well. I'm like, what is the oh, I'm so fascinated. So, ask the people in your life. Beginnercraft said, when was that Hogue quote from? There was a live stream that I popped into over on Rob's, I think it was an Friday night. It was before Hogue's stroke in December, so it would have been like a year ago. And I don't know how Ian and Rob and I started talking about like the ADHD brain things, but there was a chart. Somebody drew a chart and we were talking about all of the ADHD brains, and Hogue is like, a lot. Yes, it is. So, anyway, so y'all are fascinating. We're going to put up a poll, because now I'm like going to like fall down the rabbit hole. Emily, the best question is, has everyone gotten together to prank you with this? I don't know. I keep seeing people asking that on Instagram. I keep seeing people from all across Instagram, people I don't even follow, being like, am I being punked? Like, is the joke on me? Or is this a thing? I don't know. I feel like it's a thing because my husband is not internet savvy enough to even be in on the joke. No offense, husband. But he's just not. So it's wild. I'm definitely going to put up a poll. Don't worry. This sounds fun. I saw this on CNN yesterday. Yes, it's taken over. It might be a meme and a thing. It's both at this point. I think I sent you, Ian, and Rob an ADHD conversation meme. I love it. So anyway, maybe Dr. Curry can study it. This was a discussion on The View. Yeah, this has been very popular on TikTok for like 2 weeks. See, here's the thing. I'm old. So and also 2 weeks ago, I think I was in New Jersey, but I get things as they like spill over into the Instagram world. Heather Lamb said, is this the new white gold versus black blue dress thing? Maybe it is. My brain is now consumed by the possibility of an NSYNC reunion tour. I mean, that's what my feed is half consumed by, because I love people setting the, like, if you were born in the 1900s, should you get priority ticket purchasing? Yeah, I'm here for it. Like here are the trajectory rules of getting to party with, at NSYNC again, now that we are adults. I'm here for it. If NSYNC tours again, I will be there. So I texted my husband to ask and have yet to receive a response. He's probably seen it on social media already. It's possible. Reminds me of the girl on TikTok who convinced her boyfriend that her sunburn was her shedding because she was on her period and that it happened every month. Heather, I thought that was a face mask. It could have been a sunburn. I thought it was like a clearish face mask, and she was peeling off the face mask and was like, I shed every month. That's what happens when I get my period. That was pretty funny. I've not tried to punk my husband on that. I don't think he's punking me on this. But anyway, it's wild. Absolutely wild. My husband says no, it's fantasy football that he thinks about. Fair enough. It IMAO Rome's fall took hundreds of years, and even then it's essentially just split. It's a very fair point. We'll take over the mobility challenge section at NSYNC. I mean, I'm like, I can't stand on a slope anymore because it'll hurt my knees. Like, that's where I'm at. Okay. So with all of that, I'm going to put up a poll about it because I'm curious. And then we are going to, now that Pacer is behaving somewhat, I've got one more document I want to pull on Pacer. Because of course, I think I already have this one, but so we're ending up doing like part of a research stream as well, which I didn't anticipate Alec Murdaugh having a federal plea today. Like, that wasn't in the world of what I thought was happening. Do I have a folder for his federal plea? No. Because I have not talked about his federal case very much at all. So we're going to talk about his federal indictment briefly because his plea is going to really cover that federal indictment pretty thoroughly. If Pacer will give me the plea deal, I'm sure everybody's on Pacer. I feel bad for the people who don't use Pacer, where you get the federal court documents, trying to figure it out. Some of these courthouses are wild. Bo asked, what about the prosecution response to the Murdaugh court clerk drama? We're going to do that second. So we're going to do the federal plea first, then the new trial, then the hearing. That is the goal for the day, now that we've talked about the Roman Empire. I mean, I might think about They Might Be Giants more than I think about the Roman Empire, because the amount of times that Istanbul was Constantinople pops into my head, actually, is quite a lot. I love They Might Be Giants. I miss fun music. I mean, I miss new fun music. I feel like a lot of the new music is not, I've reached that age where I'm like, the 90s are better. Let's see. But actually, Istanbul is Constantinople. So wait, one of my coworkers said daily, and he has ideas on how we can retake Constantinople. Does your coworker also think about They Might Be Giants? Istanbul is Constantinople. So I don't know. Me Too music is awful now. I mean, I feel like I've gotten to the age where I just am like, my music was better. But did my parents feel that way? Well, there you go. Constantinople. Wait, where is it? Constantinople, Istanbul, not Constantinople, is actually a cover. It's a cover? I didn't know that. I asked my husband last night about the Roman Empire, and he said he thinks about it at least once a month. I didn't get it. What is the female equivalent? I don't know. Let's see. We're big on the Mesopotamians in this house. Ashley, I love it. Well, there you go. Constantinople was named after a Roman Emperor Constantine. I really like, speaking of Constantine, the Keanu Reeves movie Constantine is fantastic. Wait, no, I don't want that. I want this. Pacer is literally shitting the bed this morning, and I'm so disappointed. I need this last document, and then we're going to move on, I promise. Coffee mugs is the equivalent. It might be, but it depends. I feel like for some, it's serial killers. I mean, it definitely is. For some, it's serial killers. But it might really be Starbucks. It might be drink containers. Like, if we get to all the drink containers, like superior drink containers, do I need a water bottle? Like, if I have this, what else do I need? But obviously, I need this one too. I have 4 on my desk at any given time. It really might be hydration vessels. Handbags and true crime. I love it. The female equivalent is the Victorian Romantic era. It might be, if we're talking about civilizations, but it's just so wild. Anyway, all right. I need Pacer to work. And I just error after error after error after error, because of course news broke about this and now it's impossible to get on Pacer. Let me try one more time. Let's do this and try to reset. I need, like, I don't know, more time in the morning. I won't forget the poll. I promise I will not forget the poll. Pacer's like, you have too many cases saved. I was like, damn it. I have to fix that. All right, let me put up the poll. Because I think, I don't know. Do you think about the Roman Empire? I'm just going yes, no. No, I'm going to go yes. Sometimes. Yes, often. Yes, daily. And no. Does that work, or do we just want to do yes or no? Do we just want to do yes or no? Maybe we just do yes or no. Maybe we just start with yes or no. I think maybe that works best. All right, let's just start with yes or no, and then we'll narrow down the poll as to, for the yeses, how often do you think about it? I think that's the best way to do it. We need to start with the bigger question to narrow down to the smaller question. We need multiple polls. We need a poll. We need a yes, no, and then we need a yes frequency, I think, is the only way to do it. So at least we have a somewhat of a audience sampling size. So we're starting yes, no, and then we'll do frequency. And then eventually we'll cover this if Pacer decides to cooperate. So do you think about the Roman Empire? Like, is this something that you ponder in your day? All right. Let's see if I can move Pacer over here. I can keep it. All right. I'm going to have to keep two windows up. So give me 1 second. And Pacer's going to just do its little cranky thing, and hopefully it'll sort itself out. Let's go to Alec Murdaugh's federal case first. Let's do a kind of a brief overview, a brief road so far, if we will, of Murdaugh, which is a lot. Let's do that real fast. Alec Murdaugh. Wait, do we need to go to South Carolina first, chat? Before I swoop? We might need to go to South Carolina first. Okay, hold on. We need to go to South Carolina first. We have not traveled yet. Let's travel first. Let's travel first to South Carolina. You're right. Let's do that. Hi. Welcome to Charleston and/or Charlotte. I use them synonymously. Welcome. Right now, we're in the Beaufort Division of the District Court in South Carolina to deal with Murdaugh's federal fuckery, because Murdaugh was, back in May, indicted on 20 counts, I think, of theft from clients. It was a lot of the same allegations we have seen in state court and things that we have seen him already really confess to during the murder trial. So in the murder trial, there is still the motion for new trial pending. We're going to cover that in a little bit. Then there are all of these other state charges pending, including tax charges. We have not seen federal tax charges yet, but we will. There are still federal charges pending with the theft from the clients. There are state charges pending with regard to theft from clients and others. And then there is the ongoing litigation over the murder charge. Then there are also like the co-conspirators, who some have been charged and convicted, some have not been convicted yet, and that is also still swirling. So Murdaugh associates are still involved as well. So this is regarding the federal case with the theft from clients. Let's see. There we go. Let's pull this up on the screen. We're not gonna go paragraph by paragraph into this indictment, because so many of these facts came out during the criminal trial that we watched together during the very extended financial crimes segment of the murder trial. All right. And I'm still trying to get Pacer to let me download the plea that was filed late yesterday. So May 23rd, this has been unsealed. It did not get unsealed in May. It got unsealed a few months after that. So this indictment kind of went down. When did it get unsealed? Let me look real quick and see if I can tell the date that it unsealed. Nope, because Pacer is broken. This unsealed in the end of the summer, I think. I don't remember. It's been so busy. Defendant Richard Alexander Murdaugh was a personal injury attorney with the law firm located in Hampton, South Carolina, as a personal injury attorney. He represented individuals in civil claims following injury, death, and other loss. Palmetto State Bank, headquartered in Hampton, is a financial institution under FDIC. Russell Lucius Laffitte. I remember covering this because I remember this is when we learned that Russell Laffitte's middle name was Lucius. Russell Laffitte began working at PSB in 1997 and then moved all the way up in the bank. Murdaugh, the law firm's other law partners maintain bank accounts at PSB. So this we saw going on during the murder trial, right? That there were these inner dealings between Russell Laffitte and Murdaugh, and Russell Laffitte was just covering him. The scheme to defraud through Palmetto State Bank. Defendant Murdaugh and his co-conspirator Laffitte. And Laffitte has already been federally charged, tried, convicted, and I believed sentenced. Oh, thank you, Pacer. All right. Let's get this plea agreement downloaded now that Pacer has stopped giving me the spinny wheel of death. From in and around July 2011 through date unknown to the grand jury, but up to at least October 2021, in South Carolina, Murdaugh and Laffitte knowingly, intentionally combined, conspired, confederated, agreed, and had a tacit understanding with others, both known and unknown, to engage in a scheme, plan, artifice to defraud, to obtain money and property from Murdaugh's personal injury clients. So this entire charging document involves Murdaugh's theft from clients with the help of Palmetto State Bank. I don't know if they tie in B of A, because B of A is who held that fake forge account that he was using. Let's see. Docket. I'm saving this real quick. We knew that Murdaugh was going to plea in the federal case. His lawyers kept saying it. And they repeated it numerous times that they were, in fact, going to plea in that case. So we had an understanding that Murdaugh was, in fact, going to plea in the federal case a number of months ago. It's widely believed, and I think it might, I don't know if it's going to happen, that Murdaugh really would rather be in federal prison than state prison. That's probably true. I don't know if that he's going to get there, though, because he's got, that state murder charge that he's in on for all of the time on the murder charge. So I don't think he's going to get himself removed to federal prison. All right. Scheme to defraud. These are different clients of Murdaugh that are particularly pointed out that while serving as conservator for HP, beginning in July 18, 2011, Laffitte extended 10 loans from the conservatorship accounts to himself, totaling over $355,000. So just being appointed as conservator during the personal injury case and then taking the money to extend himself loans out of the conservatorship estate, which should never have happened. We've, again, talked about these things ad nauseum. Let's go to the charges real quick. Let's see. These are all the different transactions with clients. Count 1, conspiracy to commit wire fraud and bank fraud. Object of the conspiracy was to take the money from the personal injury clients, and they lay out the acts and furtherance of, like, on this day they did that, on this day they did this. Bank fraud, wire fraud, these are all kind of the same ilk. Wire fraud, those are going to be each transaction. Wire fraud. These are different clients and different check numbers where the money was getting transferred to. Because money gets transferred through the wires, it's wire fraud. So different amounts of money to different clients. Counts 8 through 22. Background on the forge scheme. So this is the forge consulting scheme that makes up the bulks of counts 8 through 22. That he was using the fake forge account at Bank of America, totaling the rest of those counts. And those are going to be each transaction. The estate of Gloria Satterfield's scheme, and then they're talking about the Satterfield case. So this is accounting for a lot of his clients that the state counts also account for. Count 8, conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Counts 9 through 22, money laundering. So all of that's regarding fake forge. So those are the 22, a brief overview of the 22 counts that I had previously covered that that Murdaugh and Russell Laffitte were facing in federal court. Russell Laffitte, again, has been tried on federal cases. Murdaugh has taken a plea deal. So let's look at the plea agreement. Are you ready? Are you ready to go through this plea agreement? Let's do that. 10-page plea agreement signed. Hold on. Signed yesterday Probably alerted to the media this morning because I saw these stories starting about 6 hours ago, which is quite early. Earlier than I'm looking at the news, that's for sure. Plea agreement. General provisions. This plea agreement is made the 18th day of September between the United States of America and the attorneys and Alec Murdaugh and his attorneys, Jim Griffin, Dick Harpootlian, and Phil Barber. In considerations of the mutual promises made herein, the parties agree as follows. The defendant agrees to plead guilty to counts 1 through 22 of the indictment now pending. In a federal plea, it's unique that we see a plea to the entire sheet. We don't normally see a plea to the sheet. Normally, the plea is to some of the counts, not all of the counts. If I'm the federal prosecutors here, what I'm saying is, I have your transcript from the murder trial, and you admit to all of this. No deal for you. And if I am the defense attorneys, I'm like, he's already admitted it at trial. So I guess we'll plead to the sheet to save everybody the time of going to trial if you sentence him to less time and try to arrange for him to stay in state prison. I think that's really the only place you can go with this, because the behavior's been admitted to in court. And as federal prosecutors, who I'm sure were watching the trial, maybe with me, hi, federal prosecutors, can you look into why it's okay for Dick Harpootlian to just like point a gun at people in court? Like, I'm still confused. I need someone to explain how that just flies. I don't know. I practiced in LA. That shit would never happen. Though LA's attitudes about guns and South Carolina's attitude about guns are very, very different, but still. If I'm federal prosecutors, I'm like, why would I benefit you by having you plead to 1 or 2 counts? There's no benefit here to us, and we have your transcript. This trial is going to go like this. Like, this is now not hard to prove. It wasn't hard to prove before. It's really not hard to prove now. What it does by the government not forcing him to go to trial and potentially giving him a little bit less time on this, because does any time on this actually matter when he's been sentenced to multiple life without parole terms in the murder trial? Does it matter? Well, if something happens to the murder trial, it can. So that might be why we're seeing them fight so hard on the murder trial. Either way, for the feds, there's no benefit in giving up any of these counts. The federal judge will determine the sentencing, not the feds. So he's agreeing to plead to the sheet, which means there is a lot of time available to them to sentence him to. But why go through this trial? His attorneys are probably like, let's not go through this trial. It's good for the victims. It's good for the victims to not have to come in and testify here, the ones that are surviving. It's probably good for Murdaugh that the lawyers for these victims or the lawyers who discovered this aren't going to testify against him because they are pissed. So it's probably better for him that they're not. In consideration of the mutual promises made, defendant agrees to plead to counts 1 through 22 of the indictment now pending, which charge conspiracy to commit wire fraud, bank fraud, in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1349, bank fraud 18 U.S.C. 1344, wire fraud 18 U.S.C. 1343, conspiracy to commit wire fraud 1349, money laundering 1956. You can see from the cases that I've covered how divergent these charges can be used. If you take anything away from my coverage of federal wire fraud and bank fraud, it's how broad, what a broad swath of behavior these charges encompass. A lot of these are the same charges that Elizabeth Holmes was charged with, that Jen Shaw was charged with. These are the same things. Wire fraud, bank fraud is what the Chrisleys were charged with. Money laundering was in the Jen Shaw indictment. These cover a large swath of different scenarios for behavior. Count 1, conspiracy to commit wire and bank fraud from July 2021 through October 2021 in South Carolina. He did the things that they're alleging. Second, at some time during the existence or life of the conspiracy, the defendant knew the unlawful purpose of the agreement. Third, the defendant joined in the agreement willfully with the intent to further the agreement for unlawful purpose. The penalty for this offense is a maximum term of 30 years, a fine of $1 million, supervised release for 5 years, special assessment of 100. Count 2, maximum term of 30 years, fine of $1 million. Count 3 through 7. For counts 3 and 4, wire fraud affecting a financial institution, a maximum term of imprisonment for 30 years, a fine of $1 million, supervised release for 5 years. For counts 5 through 7, a maximum term of 20 years, a fine of $250,000. Count 8, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, a maximum term of 20 years, a fine of 250. That's a typo. That says 250 million, but that should be 250,000. Supervised release for 3 years, special assessment. Counts 9 through 22, a maximum term of imprisonment of 20 years. That's per count. A fine of 500,000 or twice the value of the property involved. The defendant understands and agrees that monetary penalties, special assessments, restitution fines, and other payments required under the special sentence imposed by a court are due and payable immediately and subject to enforcement. I don't know where that money's going to come from. We see the lawyers being like, hey, he doesn't have any money. Can we get some of that? I don't know if they're ever going to get any money, but they may. Defendant understands that payments made in accordance with installment schedules set by the court are minimum payments only and do not preclude the government from seeking to enforce a judgment. The defendant further agrees to enter into the Bureau of Prisons Inmate Financial Repayment Program if sentenced to a term of incarceration with an unsatisfied monetary penalty. So he will be placed into a place in prison where he can potentially work this off. The defendant further understands that any monetary penalty imposed is not dischargeable in bankruptcy. I like that in the financial crimes, they are now making sure you know. Special assessment of $100 per felony count. Restitution. He agrees to make full restitution. The court will determine what that is. It's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions. Defendant understands the obligations of the government within the plea agreement. And the plea agreement are expressly contingent upon the defendants abiding by federal and state laws and complying with any bond executed in this case. This is just boilerplate because he's in prison and all of this is irrelevant. It's like, don't get in trouble before your plea. Well, he's in prison. He's not going to break bond. He's not on bond. This I'm interested in. Cooperation and forfeiture. Do they have anything to forfeit? The defendant agrees to be fully truthful and forthright with federal and local law enforcement agencies, providing full, complete, and truthful information about all criminal activities about which he or she has knowledge. Okay. The defendant must provide full, complete, and truthful debriefings about those unlawful activities and must fully disclose and provide truthful information to the government, including any books, papers, or documents, or any other items of evidentiary value to the investigation. Who else is involved? What else did you do? Is there anything we're missing? The defendant must also testify fully and truthfully before any grand juries, at any trials, or other proceedings if called upon to do so by the government. Who else is the government going after in this? And are they going to try to get him to testify against his friends? The next person on the right is like, does anyone believe Alex can be truthful? I don't even know if Alex... Here's the thing. I really am torn. I don't know if Alec knows the truth. I wonder if Alec has lied for so long that parsing the truth is squishy for him. But I wonder if they're trying to come after everybody else that was involved. It seems like they've gotten a lot of them. I don't know who's left. The failure of defendant to be fully truthful and forthright at any stage at the sole election of the government cause the obligations of the government within this agreement to become null and void. So anything the government agreed to, they don't have to do. Further, it's expressly agreed that if the obligations of the government within this agreement become null and void due to lack of truthfulness on part of defendant understands that. The defendant will not be permitted to withdraw his plea of guilty to the offenses described above. All additional charges known to the government may be filed in the appropriate district. The government will argue for a maximum sentence for the offense of which the defendant has pled guilty, and the government will use any and all information and testimony provided by the defendant pursuant to this agreement or any prior proffer agreements in the prosecution of the defendant of all charges. If we find you're lying to us, we will do our best to make sure that you are permanently fucked. They really want more information from him. This is a lot of a plea agreement about his cooperation. The defendant agrees to submit to such polygraph examinations as may be requested by the government. Defendant further agrees to his/her refusal to take or his/her failure to pass any such polygraph to the government's satisfaction will result at the government's sole discretion in the obligations of the government within the agreement becoming null and void. I don't know if I would let a client sign that part if I am a defense attorney. I'd be very interested in why the defense attorneys are good with this. This gives the government a lot of room because it says the failure to pass any such polygraph to the government's satisfaction. Is the government ever satisfied with anything? Like, I have concerns about that. I don't know. That makes me hesitant because polygraphs can vary a lot based on who's administering them. That would make me nervous. That paragraph, if I am the defense attorneys, that paragraph would make me nervous. And I would want that out. He agrees to be truthful. He agrees to cooperate. He agrees to testify. I would not sign that paragraph. Me personally, if I were acting as the defense attorney. If I'm acting as the government, I understand that the government's like, what are you going to do about it, boo? Because Alec Murdaugh doesn't really have any power to leverage here because he testified in the murder trial and all of this came out in the murder trial. So he doesn't really have anything the government needs. He's already talked about it. Cheryl said, can this be appealed? No. This is a plea agreement. He's choosing this. This can't be appealed. It's just a condition that I don't love. You're watching me in real time, like, see it both ways. Like, if you're the prosecutor in this case, you're like, here's everything we always ask for. What are you going to do about it? But if you're the defendant in this case, it's like, can we just take that paragraph out? Like, really? Polygraphs? Really? To the government's satisfaction? Like, that's so vague. It feels like this is an escape clause for the government to say he's not cooperating properly and do whatever they want. I don't love that. The government agrees that any self-incrimination information provided by the defendant as a result of the cooperation required by the terms of the agreement, although available to the court, will not be used against the defendant in determining the defendant's applicable guideline range. Here's what that means. If the defendant admits to other shit as part of the cooperation of this, then he will not have that information used against him. If he breaches this agreement, including the clause above, then they will use everything he said against him in cooperation in court. But the guideline range means they are going to recommend where he fits on the guidelines, but they're not going to use any new information. So, so they're not going to use it against him to change the guideline range for sentencing pursuant to the United States sentencing guidelines. I mean, the murder convictions are going to be a problem. Maybe they're going to not use the murder convictions in the sentencing guidelines as part of this agreement because they're still pending appeal. The provisions of this paragraph shall not be applied to restrict any such information known to the government prior to the date of this agreement, fair, concerning the existence of prior convictions and sentences, also known and fair, in a prosecution for perjury or giving false statement. I think that's a fair condition. If you lie and we can prove it, we can prosecute you for it. In the event the defendant breaches any of the terms of the plea agreement. If he breaches, they can just like spring everything to life. Used to rebut any evidence or arguments offered by or on behalf of the defendant, including arguments made or issues raised sua sponte by the court at any stage of the criminal prosecution, including bail, trial, sentencing. Provided the defendant cooperates and otherwise complies with all conditions. Yeah, what does he get? The attorneys for the government agree to recommend to the court that the sentence imposed on these charges be served concurrent to any state sentence imposed for the same conduct. The defendant understands that this recommendation would be in lieu of a motion for downward departure. What is he getting from this? other than not having to go to trial on this and his attorneys not having to try to cobble together a trial for this because they seem to not be getting paid much anymore. So it's a recommendation for concurrent sentencing. It's probably going to be concurrent anyway because he has 2 consecutive life without parole sentences. He's never getting out. Does it matter? Does any of this matter? But what they're saying is they're not going to ask for a downward departure. What a downward departure means is that the federal sentencing guidelines are like the fuck around and find out graph. And it's like, if your base is here, then your sentence can be here. It is a whole like chart system for the federal sentencing guidelines. The prosecution can say, based on XYZ circumstances, we know that the range is here. We're asking to depart downward on the range. They can also ask to depart upward on the range. We're asking to depart downward on the range because this defendant has, I don't know, done whatever. I think we're going to see this in the Stuart Smith case. Stuart Smith is Jen Shaw's like first assistant. He pled early on in that prosecution and still hasn't been sentenced. It's my speculation. No, that one. It's my speculation that he's still working with the government. They keep putting his sentencing date out. And I think it's because he continues to work with the government on other prosecutions. And so they will likely ask for a downward departure saying, hey, he took responsibility immediately and helped with all of these prosecutions. So even though his range will be here, we're asking for this thing below the sentencing guidelines. So they're saying, we're not going to ask for a downward departure. We're just going to ask that you serve it at the same time. It has to be at the same time. You can't sentence him to 30 years after he serves a life sentence. He's not still alive at that point. So, defendant agrees to voluntarily surrender to and not contest the forfeiture of any and all assets. Good luck finding them. The sum of money equal to all proceeds the defendant obtained directly or indirectly from the offenses charged in this indictment is a minimum of approximately $9 million. $9 million. Excuse me, IRS? Where y'all at? Where is the IRS case? The state government is like, where have you paid taxes on? If he stole $9 million, I'm going to guess that he's not paying taxes on that. Like, could you just do that? The IRS is like, yeah, we're just going to wait until everything else is done. He's not going anywhere. So 9 million in United States currency. I mean, I guess it's less than Girardi stole on the scale of what did you do? But this was in a much shorter period of time than Girardi. With regard to each and every asset listed in the indictment or seized in a related investigation or administrative state or local action, the defendant stipulates and agrees and consents to the forfeiture of these assets pursuant to any federal criminal, civil, judicial, or administrative forfeiture. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to fight you. You just take it. I don't know what they have, but just take it. To assist the United States in the recovery of all assets by taking whatever steps are necessary or requested by the United States to pass clear title to the United States. So it's not if he owns physical property, real property, he has to sign it over to the government. He has to work with them to turn over any assets. Again, I don't know if there's any of that stuff still left. I saw Kyle in the chat saying the IRS knows where he lives. Facts. The IRS absolutely knows where he lives. And the IRS will try to get his money. For sure. Because one windy old bird said, I will never get how the IRS gets a percentage of the stolen money. It's still income, even though he took it. So you still have to pay taxes on it. Tax fraud, tax evasion is really what takes most people down. Because it's a lot easier to prove oftentimes than the thefts. The IRS will get theirs. Look, if you are ever in a quandary where you're like, I'm not sure what's going on, start with following the money. Just start with following the money. And on this, the money was supposed to go to clients. It may or may not have been taxed a certain way because it was recovery judgments, but Murdaugh took it as income and used it as income, but didn't report it. So now it's $9 million in money that he did not report receiving because he stole it. So he is not reporting monies that he took in. It doesn't matter the source of those monies, truly, to the IRS. They're like, so there's $9 million moving around. Somebody's going to pay fucking taxes on it. This is where the IRS is getting squirrely about like cryptocurrencies and stuff. If money can be exchanged without banks, how does the IRS know the money's moving around? So they want to be able to tax I have lots of thoughts on our tax system. We're not going to soapbox on taxes today. So Allison said, so we see you didn't pay taxes on this money we stole. We're going to charge you at the gift tax rate. That is a deeply nerdy observation, and I appreciate it. Yes, we're like, this is not a gift. Can this impact Buster? Only if Buster got those monies. So, but I don't, there's a lot of circumstances there before we get to could it impact Buster. All of this is impacting Buster for the rest of his life. Could the IRS come for Buster? It's unlikely, but it really depends. If Murdaugh was paying Buster as like an employee or something, then there's always a possibility. Wasn't it taxes that took down? Yeah, Al Capone. I mean, among others. It's taken down many a reality star as well. Many a reality TV personality have fallen to the tax man. Here is my recommendation for everyone, especially if you are in business by yourself. Take money more than you think you'll owe in taxes and just put it somewhere so that when the taxes are like, excuse me, you have the money to pay them. All right, let's keep going. So he has to assist the United States in recovery of forfeiture. He waives rights to notice of forfeiture. He agrees to the preliminary order of forfeiture will satisfy the notice requirement. Like, you can't fight the forfeiture. All of this is you can't fight us. Defendant agrees to waive any double jeopardy claims that the defendant may have as a result of the forfeiture proceeding against any of these properties as provided by this plea agreement, and agrees to waive any claims that the forfeiture described herein constitutes an excessive fine. You can't argue. You cannot fight us on the forfeiture. Baby, we got your money. I don't know if they actually have his money. I don't know if they took any of it. Merger and other provisions. Defendant represents to the court that he has met with his attorney on a sufficient number of occasions for a sufficient period of time to discuss the defendant's case and receive advice. So this is the typical waiver. Defendant's been truthful with their attorney, related all information the defendant is aware of pertaining to the case. This is like forestalling all of those things that would pop up and being like, but we didn't know, and I didn't have enough time to talk to the lawyer. This is the iron fist of once you plead, there is no undoing this plea. Nothing is going to undo it. You're not going to spring in here and be like, it wasn't the dogs that did it. No. Defendant is aware that the charges afford every defendant certain rights to contest a conviction or sentence, acknowledging those rights to the defendant in exchange for the concessions made by the government in this plea agreement. What concessions did the government make? Tell me. What concessions did the government make? Not to get a trial stat? What concessions did they make? They agreed to let him serve it concurrently, which was going to happen anyway. There were no other concessions. In exchange for the concessions made by the government in this plea agreement, waives the right to contest either the conviction or the sentence in any direct appeal or post-conviction action, including any proceeding under 28 U.S.C. 2255. This waiver does not apply to claims of ineffective assistance of counsel, prosecutorial misconduct, or future changes in the law that affect the defendant's sentence. So there is a carve-out. If the lawyers did not advise him properly, if they find that the government did something that constitutes prosecutorial misconduct, then they can go after those limited things, but they can't appeal this in any way. Defendant waives all rights, whether asserted directly or by a representative, to request or receive from any department or agency any records pertaining to the investigation or prosecution of this case. That's an interesting provision. Why? Kelly said, how do we suspect Murdaugh laundered this money? Through the fake Forge account. He was concealing the origin of the money through the fake Forge account. Defendant waives all rights to request or receive from any department or agency the records pertaining to the investigation. That is an odd. I wonder if they include this in all pleas now, all federal pleas. We don't see them all written out. That is an odd right to waive. Like, you could appeal prosecutorial misconduct, but you can't get any of the records for the prosecution, sir. You have to submit to a polygraph if we feel like it. We get to revoke the deal if we're not satisfied with your polygraph, and you don't get any of the documents based on the investigation. Interesting. Very interesting. Including without limitations any records that may be sought under FOIA. Wow. Okay. The parties hereby agree that this plea agreement contains the entire agreement. So this is signed by Murdaugh, Griffin, and the U.S. attorney. Interesting that Murdaugh and Griffin didn't date it, and the U.S. attorney did. So will we see him in court for a federal sentencing? No. Because we don't get to see federal cases or hear them. Will he go to court for a federal sentencing? Yes. Does Pacer have a future date? Let me look. Pacer's being squirrely AF. And then we're going to go to the state case in just a minute. But let me pull up Pacer real quick and see what it says. Oh, soon. Notice of hearing as to Richard Alexander Murdaugh. Change of plea hearing set for 9/21/23, 10 a.m. So in a few days. So he'll be in court for change of plea, and then they'll set a sentencing date. So that's 9/21. So that's Thursday. He'll be in federal court at 10 a.m. For the change of plea, to take the plea, and then they will set a sentencing date and do sentencing memorandum. I'll cover the sentencing memorandums when they come out. I'll be interested to see what the state calculates the max as. It's going to be a lot. He's not going to get the max. I'm interested into what his sentencing range is as they calculate it. So he'll be in court on Thursday, and then we should get a sentencing date 60 days more after that. All right. Thursday, Murdaugh will be back in federal court to change his plea officially. The plea deal is signed and done. So he's just going to do it on the record. That's not going to be much of a hearing other than setting a date for sentencing. That's going to be the big point. The big takeaway for Thursday will be the change of date. All right. Let's move on to, where did my notes go? Darn it. Where did my stream notes go? Oh, Murdaugh. Let's go pull up my notes. We're going to go to the motion for new trial stuff next. So let's do that. I had the link saved and now it's moved. Here's the state's response. All right. Let's swoop for a minute and get to that. And that's the Murdaugh plea deal. All right. So summary of the Murdaugh plea deal. He's pleading to everything. There's some real interesting provisions of that plea deal he agreed to, and he waived all of his rights. And the government said that they would ask for a concurrent plea deal. They're not going to ask for a downward departure. They're just going to say, sentence him concurrently to the life sentence. I mean, what are they going to sentence him consecutively? It's like life. Resurrect him. Life again. And then again. And then he can serve his 30 years on the federal crimes. Like, it's de facto concurrent to 2 life sentences. But anyway, the feds conceded nothing. They got nothing. Or they conceded nothing. They got to not do the trial that they probably would have quite enjoyed because it's an easy trial. Sometimes, though, the easy win is not worth the time. Whimsical Druid, Monty Python. What have the Romans ever done for us? They have sparked much delightful internet conversing. Interesting conversation. All right. Let's swoop. Swoop. Have you guys been watching Swoop's docuseries? Swoop is such an incredible filmmaker. Swoop is a creator here on the platform. Swoop has been doing a deep dive into all things toxic gossip train Colleen Ballinger. It's truly incredible, the work Swoop has done. I mean, this is why people don't have Netflix anymore, because we have creators on YouTube like Swoop. Why do you need to pay for HBO? Swoop is just an absolutely incredible interviewer and filmmaker. Just the amount of compassion, but also the amount of transparency. It's just, this is why people are like, I don't need anything else. I'm good on YouTube, because there are creators on this platform like Swoop. It's absolutely inspiring to me to watch the way that she creates. BKV said equivalent to CoffeeZilla, similar but different. She covers different kinds of things, but yes, an incredible creator with deep dives. Just absolutely fantastic, but covers less scammers in the way that CoffeeZilla covers scammers, more internet personalities and the dark side of internet notoriety, fame, audiences. It's absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. I'm sure she's exhausted after these documentary series. I really hope that they are awarded the way that they should be. It's absolutely incredible. I think she's great. So, it feels like true documentaries. She also does true crime. Yes, I came across her content during one of the trials. It might have been Depp v. Heard. She's so good. It's absolutely impressive. It really is. She is an incredible filmmaker. But I like the way that she parses information. And that's the thing I look for in creators that I like. Like, either I'm just entertained, or I like the way that they think through information, even if we don't always agree on things. Particularly when we don't agree on things. I like seeing how people come to their conclusion. I still have a curious brain. You do too. You're law nerds. You're here. We have curious minds. Not everybody does. Some people are like, I don't agree with you. La, 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 la. Like, I can't listen to how you got there. I love the way she parses through information. I absolutely love it. I love it. All right. Let us. How do I find Swoop? YouTube. Jill Prince, YouTube, Swoop. Just, if you put in Swoop Colleen Ballinger, it'll come up. It's probably, you'll see her in her thumbnails. She has a blue hair in her thumbnails. You will see her in those thumbnails. It's probably being served to you because those videos are doing so well. You will see it. So they are long form. RS said thinking, is that still allowed? Don't tell them. Don't tell them that we think for ourselves over here. Shh. Don't tell them. Don't tell them that we have nuanced conversations and that we are able to talk through the process of thought and then let people come to their own conclusion. We can present information and then let people make up their own minds. I know. And as it goes to Swoop and I, we can do it while having colorful hair. I know. So weird. We can like present information transparently and then let y'all decide what you think about that information and how you feel about it. Y'all get to have your own feelings and opinions. It's so weird. Isn't the internet great? Swoop covered Ruby Frankie 6 months ago. Now look, yes. And I love it when creators are transparent because you can learn how they're approaching things. Love it so much. All right. Let us get into state court with Murdaugh. Now that we've had a cheeky little moment. State court. Oh, Becky. What have you done? So, Team Murdaugh filed a motion for new trial accusing Clerk of Court Becky of all of the shit and had them in their motion included affidavits from jurors, affidavits that purport to be from jurors. The allegations are bad. They're bad. They're bad allegations. But they are allegations. If the things that happened, there's going to need to be an evidentiary hearing. I don't know if my thinking on this is skewed because I want there to be an evidentiary hearing because I have so many questions. I want to see people on the stand and asked all the questions because I don't know how we undo this without just putting people on the stand and asking questions. Like, I don't know if I would feel resolved with this without that. I think there has to be an evidentiary hearing at this point. I want to see the evidence. I want to see what's been done. These are such serious allegations that I think we have to just put the witnesses on the stand and hear what they have to say. Put the jurors on the stand and hear what they have to say. And if things are misrepresented to the court from Team Murdaugh, that is a huge problem that has to be dealt with. If things are not misrepresented by Team Murdaugh and these allegations are true, that is something that needs to be dealt with and probably prosecuted. Bad allegations of jury tampering. But the response from the state that dropped on Friday indicates that things might not be as they seem, which is why we have to do the thing that is very hard for us as humans and try to wait till it all plays out before coming to a conclusion. It's a challenge. Some things we can decide rapidly. Like, what do you mean there's no cell and Wi-Fi? I didn't think I was camping off grid. I need to go. Some decisions could be made quickly in our brains. What would you like at Starbucks? Obviously, it's going to be pumpkin cream cold brew until they stop serving them. These decisions are quick. But when it comes to allegations being bad, there's like a two part to this is if true, these allegations are bad, and if true, these things should happen. If not true, then this. And until we get to the end of something, with allegations, it has to really be, for me, if this is proven, this is bad, and then this is what happens. If this is not proven, then what happens? I try to keep an open mind that way, even when I'm saying these are really bad and if true. And if true. Because again, allegations and shade. And these are allegations and shade made by Team Murdaugh in a way that they can be punished by the court. But if what they said about Becky, assuming arguendo, that what they said about the clerk Becky is not true, it's covered by judicial privilege. This is said in the course of an appeal. This is said in legal documents. Can she sue them for what they said in the press conference? I think it would be really, really difficult because they can argue that it is part of their representation of their client and that it's covered. Different than an article in, I don't know, the Wall Street Journal or the Washington Post. Different than like a news article. Different than somebody going on YouTube and saying, something that's untrue, knowingly untrue and defamatory, or somebody going on TikTok and saying that a university professor hired, a hitman and organized for students to be killed. Those things are different. But when things that you say in a legal filing are protected in a different way. So if they have misrepresented things to the court, I think the court also might need to look at taking action because Becky, clerk of court, is not going to be able to take action. And have you seen much media coverage of the response? Have you seen as much media coverage of the response as you saw of the allegations against Becky if you are out in the world of the greater internet? It happened on Friday. I didn't see much go down. I didn't see much coverage of it at all. And that's the hard thing with allegations. I cover this tomorrow on the podcast. The blind side, when the story broke, everybody, myself included, was like, what the fuck? This is awful. How did this happen? The conservatorship is there. This is wild. The response was filed a number of days ago. Crickets. The media's moved on to like Russell Brand and Drew Barrymore and other things. And that's what's so hard about law in the media is the initial allegations get covered. The responses don't. So tomorrow I cover the response in the blind side. There's been no media coverage of it. It is the initial allegations that get covered and then silence. And that's what makes it so hard for people to defend themselves. If Miss Becky didn't do these things, how many people are going to be left with the impression that she did based on the media coverage, based on just seeing the headlines? I'm sure there are plenty of people that are going to be like, I mean, South Carolina is corrupt. Look at the clerk court. And take that away from the headlines and roll. I'm not saying that's true. I'm saying people could think that. You guys are like, Drew Barrymore. If you guys don't follow Molly McPherson, she covers PR. She does what I do for PR. She's a PR specialist. And she does basically what I do and breaks down pop culture PR crises. Fascinating. She's on TikTok, Instagram. She has a podcast. Molly McPherson is fantastic. But Drew Barrymore wanted to continue her show during strike and then apologized that people were mad that she wanted to continue her show during strike. And it was like a week of shit before she reversed and then decided she's not going to put her show up during the strike. But it was like a whole thing. I was very surprised when Drew was like, we're going to go ahead and do the show. I was like, how do you think this is going to be okay? People are not going to like this at all. Like, how did she not see that coming? Anyway, that's what was going on with Drew Barrymore. So it was a whole conversation on the internet about whether Drew Barrymore going back to her show without her WGA striking writers was okay. So, but as those are the two things I've seen the most in my feeds, that and the Roman Empire. So what I'm saying is the media's moved on and then we don't get the responses. So then what do you do? Right? We're going to talk about Shannon Bedore's DUI, but it leaves people with the impression that these things were done because you only see the headlines on the internet. So that is my point with legal coverage and why I do things the way that I do and why I cover court filings, because when there's an initial court filing, we know there will be a response. And so I cover court filings. For those of you asking about Russell Brand, those are allegations in media articles. I cover court filings because there is a process to get to a resolution. Allegations that are made here have an opportunity to respond. Not everybody covers them. I can. When allegations are made in the media only, and there's no legal filing, we don't know if there's ever going to be resolution, and then it's all just speculation without resolution. So with all of that, there is a court filing here that we're going to cover. And that's why I primarily cover and like covering court filings, because there's a process. State of South Carolina and the Court of Appeals appeal from Colton County, Clifton Newman. And then we've got to get to Clifton Newman because Newman is covering the hearing that I want to cover. Return to motion to suspend appeal for leave to file motion for new trial. On September 5th, appellant Murdaugh moved pursuant to Rule 29B, SCR Crim P. Scrimp. In my brain, that's how that goes. Scrimp. South Carolina Rules of Criminal Procedure is probably what that stands for. To suspend his appeal and grant leave to file a motion for new trial based on a blend of mixed allegations broadly directed at the Colton County Clerk of Court, Becky Hill. Respondent would show as follows. Respondent, prosecution. Quote, a motion for new trial based on after discovered evidence, stuff discovered later, after discovered evidence may not be made while the case is on appeal unless the appellant court upon motion has suspended the appeal and granted leave to make the motion. Generally, you get procedurally the motion for new trial before it goes up on appeal at the court level. So they'll make a motion for new trial to Judge Newman, and Judge Newman will be like, I just sat through this whole thing. No. And then it will go up on appeal. So what the defense is asking for here is to, like, they've already filed notice of appeal. They want to, like, time out the appeal, freeze it, pause it, suspend it, stay it, and then make a new trial motion back to Judge Newman based on this after discovered evidence. So they're asking for two things. Pause this. Let us go do that. There can be no doubt that motions of this sort should be received with the utmost caution because, as it is said by a learned judge, which judge? Is this quoting something? Name the judge. Could we name the judge? Learned hand. No, it is said by a learned judge, there are but few cases tried in which something new may not be hunted up, sorry, and also because it tends to perjury. That's an odd quote. State versus Matthias from 1934, quoting State versus David from 1881. The prosecution's like, hey, Poot, we found some cases from your day. I know it's a rude joke. I know. The prosecution's like, let us pull something from 1881. Jesus. Here. It would have a mischievous tendency, my brain is like, it would have a mischievous tendency after all the evidence on the part of the state had been fully disclosed to allow one with his life in danger an opportunity by the assistance of Confederates to procure unprincipled witnesses to contradict the evidence on the part of the state and thereby defeat the ends of justice. Quoting State by Harding, 1800. Oh, we've gone back. We've gone back beyond 1881 to 1800, full stop. They're like, we're going back to our histories. If Poot wants to grandstand, we're going back to the history books, Poot. Back to the 1800s, back to the inception of our justice system. Can somebody chat? Can you let me know when South Carolina became a state? I don't know. I grew up in a much younger state. So states with this much history are sometimes confusing to me. They're not confusing, but you know what I mean. When did the chat said, will we get back to the Roman Empire? We might. We might get all the way back to the Roman Empire. 1788 for South Carolina. Thank you. It was a colony. But officially May 23rd, 1788. Thank you. To prevail on his request to suspend the appeal and have the matter, so their court system, they were like, we're rolling. Official statehood 1788. Thank you. I know it's one of the OG colonies. I was just curious. Not East Coast shade, West Coast shade. In the West Coast, they're like, we're citing stuff in the 60s. What do you want? It was the Wild West before that. There wasn't procedure. It was wild. To prevail on his request to suspend the appeal and have the matter remanded to the circuit court to proceed on a motion for new trial based on after discovered evidence, Murdaugh must show, 1, the evidence in question is such as will probably change the results if a new trial is granted. So these are the tests they have to weigh. Would this new evidence change the result? I don't know. I think that's a fair question. Did what the clerk is alleged to have done impact the jury's decision? And did they allege that? I don't think they alleged that it changed the jury's decision. I think they said anyone talking to the jury is preposterous, full stop. How could it not impact it? But I don't think they said how it did impact it. They said, how could it not? different splitting hairs, lawyers. 2, the evidence has been discovered since the trial. It seems that that's the case, but maybe not. 3, the evidence could not have been discovered prior to trial by the existence of due diligence. Well, it happened during trial, so that's true. 4, the evidence is material to the issue of guilt or innocence. 5, the evidence is not merely cumulative or impeaching. I saw the comment in the chat. Where did it go? About the Magna Carta. I saw a lot of you talking about the Magna Carta. I yelled about the Magna Carta motion in the Idaho case and didn't cover it in full because I was like, I'm not doing this. I just yelled about it a little bit. But yes, the Magna Carta did get quoted in Idaho recently. I should have studied more history. Let's see. Movement must show he did not know the existence of such evidence at the time of the trial, that he used due diligence to discover such evidence, or that he could not have discovered it by the exercise of due diligence. This was happening during the trial. And I'm going to save this as a question. I'm going to get to this in a minute. It's a great observation. They're going to talk about that in this motion. Additionally, it is essential to the consideration of a motion for new trial based on after discovered evidence that such motion shall be supported by an affidavit of the accused himself. Well, that's interesting. That's interesting. The defense didn't tell us that in their motion. I'm curious. Unless a valid and sufficient reason for the omission to file such an affidavit is shown, the affidavit of the accused must show that he did not know of the existence of such evidence at the time of trial, that he used due diligence to discover such evidence, and that he could not have discovered it by the exercise of due diligence. An affidavit of appellant's counsel showing these matters is not sufficient. That is an interesting case determination in South Carolina, that the accused must make an affidavit. It may well be the suspension of the appeal and remand for an evidentiary hearing will be necessary to properly resolve some of the serious claims raised by Murdaugh in the motion he intends to file. I don't disagree. We may need an evidentiary hearing. I just want one. That is where I'm leaning. That is just based on one. I want to see this happen. But procedure needs to be followed, right? We need to go through the due process of the whole thing. Objective investigation by SLED, footnote 1. Agents utilized by SLED for this purpose are separate and distinct from those who have otherwise investigated appellant's numerous alleged crimes. Is there anyone left in SLED that hasn't investigated Murdaugh at this point? How did you find anybody? Between all the financial crimes and the murder case, is there anyone left on SLED that can do that? Is there like one person? Objective investigation by SLED remains ongoing, but the inquiry has already revealed significant factual disputes as to claims in appellant's motion. This is why we're going to probably need an evidentiary hearing. If no credible evidence can be found to support the claims brought by Murdaugh, the state will be prepared to argue against the motion before the Honorable Clifton Newman on remand. So they're saying to the appellate court, do not grant the new trial yet. Send this back to Judge Newman and let us argue that it shouldn't even be heard. I don't know if having SLED investigate this helps. Does the AG have no independent investigators outside of SLED? Could they have joint task forced somebody? I don't know. I don't know if it's helpful to have SLED investigate this. However, at present, appellant's request for remand is procedurally defective. Yeah, you got to do it right. A review of the motion does not reveal precisely when or how it is he learned of the claims he now raises. Remember, that timeline is one of the prongs that needs to be shown before the appeal can be suspended, and this could be theoretically granted or go to a motion hearing to determine if it can be granted. They need to know when it happened, because that's one of the prongs. Nor has appellant provided the affidavit required by the case law. Appellant's counsels, however, made multiple statements to various media outlets indicating that they were potentially aware of an issue with the jury at or about the time of trial. What you say in the media is going to find its way into this motion right now, Dick and Poot. Notice Barber just stands there silently in the best sunglasses. Barber's vibe is giving for me. He's just like, I'm not saying shit. Just stand there. I'm not saying shit. In a press conference on the steps of this court on September 5th, counsel Harpootlian, responding to a question as to whether they saw the alleged conduct during the jury view or found out about it after the fact, replies, I think we observed it. I was there. I watched it. Footnote 2. And then it has the link. Later at that same press conference, when a reporter asked if they approached the jurors or vice versa, Griffin replied, immediately in the aftermath of the verdict, we received information that we need to look into what happened in the jury room. In one interview with Good Morning America on September 6th, counsel Griffin states that soon after the trial, actually as soon as the verdict was rendered, we had gotten some information from folks in the courtroom that there was something untoward that had happened in the jury room. We didn't know exactly what, and we went on a campaign to find out what. Footnote 4, accessible at, and then the link to Good Morning America. Accordingly, the state is compelled to move to dismiss due to the procedural defect. The state would request the court grant appellant a leave of 10 days to correct the procedural defect and establish precisely when and how it is he first learned of these allegations. In the event appellant properly files, remand may be necessary for the trial judge, the Honorable Clifton Newman, to consider the credibility of the claims in light of the significant factual disputes which undermine the credibility of the claims. I'm ready. I'm ready for it to go back. I'm ready for them to argue this in front of Judge Newman. I want to know everything. Hopefully, they will refile it. That will be coming soon because this is from the 15th, so 10 days, by the end of the month. And the state's still doing their investigation. I'm very, very interested to see. I know that Eric Bland is representing some of the other jurors. I know that there's a lot of information outside the filings. We're not going to get into that today because there is a lot of information outside the filings. I want to get to the last court hearing with Judge Newman and with Alec Murdaugh. So we're going to go to that next, and then we'll see what time we have left, because I also want to make sure that we get to questions today. And I don't think we're going to get to what time is it? I don't know if we're going to be able to get to the sentencing of Corey Fleming. I'm going to try. Let's see how fast we can get through Murdaugh's hearing and see if we can get to the hearing for Corey Fleming. It's so funny. They started the cameras like an hour before Judge Newman came out onto the bench in all of these. So finding exactly when Judge Newman comes out onto the bench takes a minute. There he is. All right. Wait, I need to gain the audio. Wasn't there a reply to this? That was the state's reply. There isn't a reply from Murdaugh that I have seen filed. There was a state reply. Eric Bland has his fingers in all the pies. Eric Bland is in all of this. He represents some of the Murdaugh victims. He's now representing some of the jurors. He is in all of this case. We're going to get to questions next. What we're going to do now is go to Judge Newman. I'm going to end this poll about the Roman Empire. Do you think about the Roman Empire? Yes, 33%. No, 67%. So we know where the audience falls on that. Are you guys ready for Judge Newman? I'm ready for Judge Newman. Let me gain the audio. We're just going to go to all of it. And then, and I'm going to do my best with this audio, this court audio. I have looked at like 4 different outlets for this. All of it's bad. Just all of it's bad. All of it's bad. All of the audio is bad. Let me make this as large as I can, but I want to see. They're talking about the state financial crimes. I don't know if after he pleads to the federal versions that he will plead to this or not, but I adore Judge Newman. So let's just bring the judge. Are you ready? Bring the judge. Let's go. All right. We've got counsel table with the prosecution. Defense is on the far side of the courtroom. Judge Newman is coming up. Yes, this is a different different courtroom. Judge Newman's been riding circuit. So Judge Newman will appear in the different courts because at some point, I would love to chat with Creighton Waters about how all of these chargings work. But the way that South Carolina charges different indictments in different counties instead of putting them all in one place is wild to me, but they do. So let's go. Oh, it's so quiet. I know it sounds like a potato. I've got it gained as much as possible. It is a very grand courtroom, though.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ron. We have, I think, 3 matters on the docket, statement 3 matters for your honors.
Hold on. Oh, the one I picked has closed captions unavailable. Hold on. I think I need to go grab the one that has closed captions. I didn't realize this one didn't have closed captions. Give me 1 second because the court TV one was also so bad. They're just so bad. Let's see if we can find. Let's see if this is any better. I was trying to find the most concise one, but we also need closed caption, especially for how bad the audio is in this court hearing. All right, give me a moment to re-find my place in a different feed and get closed captioning going. I don't know if this audio is any better. Make sure this is gained. This is gained to 600 on my booster. Let's get closed captioning up there. Let's zoom to Judge Newman coming in. I see movement by the door. All right. Come on, bring the judge. This is a harder feed to navigate because they left it rolling and it's like a 7-hour long feed. No, we're not going to watch 7 hours.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ron.
I think we're all going to need closed captioning on this because it's so hard to hear.
On the docket, statement 3 matters for your honors consideration today. I believe I'm speaking with State Grand Jury Clerk. The first case up for status is the State versus Russell Laffitte. Again, to remind Your Honor, you've been indicted in 2022 GS 4701.
Creighton Waters is talking about Russell Laffitte to do the status conference on Russell Laffitte, then Murdaugh, then the sentencing on Corey Fleming.
Venue in Hampton County. This is a state grand jury indictment containing 4 white-collar counts. 2022 GS 4702. That's in Hampton County. 3 white-collar counts. And then finally, 2022 GS 4703 venue in Allendale County, which contains 14 white-collar counts.
Those are all the different counts for Russell Laffitte in all the different counties.
Total of 21 charges with an alleged loss of about $1.8 million. Mr. Laffitte is here, present with his counsel, Mark Moore and Todd Rutherford. And again, I think we're here to status the case and to discuss a trial date.
Not to discuss the trial date, to set a trial date.
Judge Newman's like, we are not discussing shit. We are setting a trial date for Mr. Laffitte. Again, he was convicted on the federal charges. I don't understand why some of these things aren't pleading. I have so many questions. When all of this is done, I want to sit down and have a 3-hour chat with Creighton Waters. I have so many questions.
And and the state is prepared to go forward at whatever date works for all the parties. I think the defense has a different position, and so I will let them at this point raise whatever they wish to raise, unless Your Honor has any specific questions.
All right. Mr. Moore?
Morning, Your Honor, how are you?
Fine.
So, things have not changed much on the federal side since the last time we spoke. Mr. Laffitte's bond motion is still pending with the Fourth Circuit. The Fourth Circuit has not yet decided. I thought we would have a decision by today.
It's what kind of motion?
It's a motion for an appeal bond. He is scheduled to report on September 21st, unless
Russell Laffitte is scheduled to report to federal prison on the 21st unless his appeal bond is granted. I believe his appeal bond was already denied.
the Fourth Circuit grants him an appeal bond. I had a briefing schedule in this case.
He wants to stay out pending appeal. I don't think that's likely.
They briefed him at the end of September. The government crossed appeal. And after the government crossed appeal, the Fourth Circuit consolidated those cases. I don't have a new briefing schedule, but I'm going to get a briefing schedule on the federal case.
All right. So you're here to talk about the federal case. I'm here to talk about this case, the state case.
Look, Your Honor,
It sounds like they don't want to set a trial date for the state case for Laffitte until they know if he's going to get to stay out on bond with the federal case. And Judge Newman's like, you keep saying federal. That's not my problem.
I'm telling you because they have some relationship to each other.
What is the relationship?
The relationship, Your Honor, is that much of the evidence is the same. Okay? Much of the evidence is the same. And as Your Honor,
Laffitte, by the way, was sentenced to 7 years. He is trying to stay out pending appeal.
knows, and I know that these cases are scheduled separately, but my client is charged in 3 separate cases with Mr. Murdaugh. Okay? They are co-defendants. No motion to sever has been filed. Okay? And so, as I understand it, the state wants to try a case involving Mr. Murdaugh that does not involve my client first. My client has been convicted in federal court, and
We're going to set this case aside and proceed with Mr. Murdaugh's case. Then we'll come back to this case.
so you want to set aside the
That's what I just said, yes.
He's like, y'all want to talk about a lot more? Get out. We're going to set Murdaugh's case first, and then I'll get back to you. Judge Newman's like, I've heard enough. Bring the Murdaugh. God, I like this judge. He's like, fine, I'll hear you out. Murdaugh first. So the Laffitte case is now going to have to wait. The Murdaugh case is going to be coming up, which means Murdaugh will be coming out in a jail jumpsuit. I'm going to speed this up till we get Murdaugh out to the table, because now you see Poot et al. take over council table. For those of you asking, who is the Laffitte guy? The Laffitte guy is or was the head of Palmetto State Bank, who was involved in Murdaugh getting all of these loans and taking money out of like Hakeem Pickney's estate while it was held at Palmetto State Bank. So he is one of the co-defendants in all of this. So let me slow this back down. He was the Palmetto State Bank co-defendant, and he's been charged in state court in multiple indictments and in federal court, sentenced to 7 years after his conviction in federal court. His sister-in-law was the accountant for the law firm that testified, or the CFO of the law firm that testified. Yes, the text message loans.
Murdaugh, Your Honor is aware, he's indicted in a slew of state grand jury
I got yeeted. I'm sorry. I was trying to change the layout and it yeeted me. Sorry, chat. That is me. That was all me. That was 100% me. Let's try this again. Poop be Putin. I was trying to change my layout and I got way too close. We flew too close to the sun. All right. Let us continue.
County, containing a number of white-collar counts, 2021 GS 4728 in Bamberg County. These were indicted in the state grand jury in November of 2021.
He has over 101 state charges pending. So what Creighton is about to go through is all the different pending charges in all the different counties.
We have 2021 GS 4729 in Allendale County, also indicted in November 21. 2021 GS 4730 in Beaufort County, also indicted in November 2021. 2021 GS 4731 in Carlton County, also indicted in November of 2021. 2021 GS 4732 in Hampton County, indicted in December 2021.
Creighton, I need you to project all the way.
4733 in Hampton County, also indicted in December 21. 2021 GS 4734 in Hampton County, also indicted in December 21. 2021 GS 4735 in Beaufort County, indicted in December 21. 2021 GS 4736 in Hampton County, also indicted in December 21. 2021 GS 4737 in Hampton County, indicted by the state grand jury.
All the cases against him.
2021 GS 4738 in Carlton County, that's indicted in December 2021. 2021 GS 4729 was a superseding in Allendale County in January 2022. 2022 GS 4701 in Hampton County in January 2022. 2022 GS 4702 in Hampton County, that's January 22 was when it was indicted. 2022 GS 4703 in Allendale County in January 22. 2021 GS 4727 superseding in March of 22 in Orangeburg County. 2021 GS 4730 superseding in Beaufort County in March of 2022. 2022 GS 4701 in Hampton County in April. 2022 GS 4702 in Hampton County in April. 2022 GS 4703 is superseding in Allendale County in April of 2022. 2022 GS 4710 in Carlton County in June of 2022. 2022 GS 4723 in Hampton County in August of 2022. 22 GS 4724 in Carlton County in August of 2022. Finally, our last two, 2022 GS 4734 in Hampton in December of 2022, and 2023 GS 47.
I've seen a number of comments that Murdaugh looks a lot different. Yeah, he's not drinking. He's not using opioids. He's working out regularly, sleeping. He's lost a ton of weight. Different life.
Almost $8.8 million.
$8.8 million is what the state is alleging.
Have discussed, I believe, back.
Keep in mind that 8.8 is overlap from the federal government's alleged 9 million. It's not in addition to, it's an overlap. Draco Amy, no, I'm not saying prison is good. I'm just saying Murdaugh's lifestyle is a bit different now. So no, still don't want to see him shirtless though. I mean, same. So.
April, requesting a trial date for Mr. Murdaugh. I believe that we look at some of the other co-conspirators that Corey Fleming has pled. Was supposed to be at a trial this week. But Mr. Murdaugh remains the state's priority, and I believe the case that is the priority would be the case involving the Satterfield, Your Honor.
The Satterfield trial
represents the greatest single loss among all the victims. That would be 2021 GS 4730 being here in Beaufort County. And the state is intent and requesting the court to schedule a trial date as soon as reasonably possible, sometime before the end of this year. To try Ellen Murdaugh on those particular charges.
Here's what we've learned. They are trying these cases separately. So all of those different financial crimes cases are not going to be one big case. They're going to do them bit by bit, which I don't know why they're doing it that way, but okay. We heard a ton about the Satterfield case and the murder case. So they're ready to go to trial on it. I think they're probably more ready to go to trial on the financial crimes than they were on the murder cases. Alec Murdaugh did not waive time on the murder, so it went very quickly. But these, they are well and ready for. And this is kind of the bread and butter of what the state AG's office do, are these types of financial crimes. This is a much easier case to try than the murder case. So I'm not surprised that they're like, we want to go to trial on this one. We want to do it before the end of the year. All right, let's go. I mean, everything else is continued. Let's do all the Murdaugh trials. Let's go. I don't know why he's not pleading to the state charges, but there's a reason. So let's go.
All right, Mr. Harper. Yes, sir.
Your Honor, there are a number of
Lisa Blue, I'm going to highlight this. A lot in the chat asked about this. Did anyone notice Todd Rutherford, one of Lafayette's lawyers and a very prominent state senator, stand up and shake Murdaugh's hand like he's fanboying over a convicted double murderer, and then kept looking at him? He's got his little, I think he has his little state senator pin on as well. He was sitting middle of the other lawyers at table. Yes. And I think that was widely noticed by social media too, that the state senator stood up and was like shaking his hand and then kind of continued to look at him like, it's Alec Murdaugh in the flesh. Sir. All right, let's keep going. But yes, I did notice, and I think a lot noticed, though I don't know if everyone outside of South Carolina would have known who that was. So thank you for pointing it out for the broader chat and especially our international crew. So if you guys want to go back and look, it's right when Murdaugh comes in. It's wild.
different objections we have to try
Lyndon, that's a good point.
any of these cases this year. We previously got the impression from Your Honor.
Poot said we don't want to try any of these cases this year. I do. Excuse me, Judge Newman, November works. I mean, after BravoCon, but November works for me.
All right, Mr. Harper. Yes, sir.
Your Honor, there are a number of different objections we have to trying any of these cases this year. We previously got the impression from Your Honor when we met at the last status conference that you would not be trying any of these cases.
Poot just said, we previously got the impression from Your Honor that you would not be trying any of these cases.
Leaving the bench on January 1.
Tell me about that impression again.
That was my impression based on your discussion.
Of course, said, tell me about that impression again.
If I did, I apologize. But in the meantime, Mr. Griffin and I have scheduled other matters involved.
I am getting the sense that that Poot is like, we're waiting until you're retiring, Your Honor. We don't want to try any of these till you retire. None of it. And Judge Newman's like, I will sit in retirement for these cases.
I am, both he and I have a federal trial in December. Before that, Your Honor, and I think I mentioned this the last time we talked, I have the oldest case in Lexington County, civil case, involves the death of 5 children killed by their father who was sentenced to death for it. We sued the Department of Social Services 8 years ago, and finally on a trial docket. I've mentioned this is something I mentioned.
So a trial docket for when?
Motions on the 14th of October, trial on October, and I have a email here from Judge.
On October when?
A trial on, motions heard on October 13th, trial on October 30th. And it's at least a 2-week or 3-week trial. Mr. Griffin had an additional conflict in Texas, a federal trial, what day? October 30th that week. So I guess this is September.
This is September, and we're booked the rest of the fall, Your Honor. Can we all come back in the spring?
Trying that case wouldn't be done until
early in November.
Nobody asked Mr. Barber. Just let Mr. Barber try it. Emily, do you have a favorite on the defense team? Yes. Just let Mr. Barber try it. Just give it to him. Let him do the Satterfield case. I am sure he is more than capable. The jury, you might be surprised. Let him do it.
And Your Honor, it's going to take some time to get ready for these cases. But more
Stop it.
this is.
It's going to take some time to get ready for these cases. You're ready for these cases. You basically tried them in the middle of the murder trial because the state wouldn't let it go. So stop it. It's going to take time to get ready for these cases. No, it's not. The one case they are trying to set out of the 100 other indictments pending at the state level is the Gloria Satterfield case that they've been arguing over in the civil case. They seem well connected to the facts of the Satterfield case. They're arguing it in the civil lawsuits as well.
The toughest thing I have to say, and that is this. This case was finished 6 months ago.
Poot's getting into the toughest thing he has to say, and I really, really, really want to know what it is.
Clearly, I don't think anyone disputes has had more publicity than any case in the history of this state and maybe the country.
Every single lawyer wants to keep arguing that their case is somehow the most publicized case in the country. I'm putting up a poll. He said the most publicized in South Carolina. That may well be true. But stop trying to tell me this is the most publicized case in the country. I'm going with recent cases. Most publicity. I'm not adding OJ to that because it's not as recent. Depp v. Heard. Idaho College murders. Murdaugh. Who else has that much publicity? Oh, Gwyneth. Maybe. But I think on that, Depp v. Heard had the most. I think that Idaho is next and then Murdaugh. Maybe. I want to know what you guys think. Let's keep going.
On national television every day for 6 weeks. The motions motions hearings were covered, and they're here again today.
I love that we're like, what are we getting a light check?
Podcasted, blogged.
The official photography shot on iPhone. I'm just watching the dude taking pictures of Poot on his iPhone. I'm just.
Actors out there who are ripping their 15 minutes, hanging by their fingernails, wanting more of their 15 minutes of fame.
I need to hear this. Wait, I need to hear what he's saying about 15 minutes of fame. Elaine, how did you transmute into Poot? Why are we talking about 15 minutes of fame?
Motions hearings were covered, and they're here again today. It has been podcasted, blogged. We've got podcasters out there who are ripping their 15 minutes.
We have podcasters out there who are gripping their 15 minutes of fame, hanging on to their 15 minutes of fame. He's mad at bloggers and podcasters. Didn't your co-counsel start a podcast? Did you forget about YouTube, Poot? What about us?
Hanging by their fingernails, wanting more of their 15 minutes of fame, and continue to talk about this. I understand one of the solutions.
It's not done yet, Poot. Your client is part of one of the largest legal scandals in history. Of course, people are talking about it. He's like hanging by their fingertips for 15 minutes of fame. Oh, Poot. Yes. And all of you in the chat are like, Poot's attending CrimeCon. Griffin is attending CrimeCon. Like, all of them also want to go to CrimeCon. I hope they know nothing about us. Like, don't know we exist. We're just over here on YouTube. They're talking about blogs and podcasts. Poot might not know that YouTube is a thing. He might not have known that this streamed. Let's just leave it there. But he's so mad.
To massive pretrial publicity is a change of venue.
Wait. I'm not done yet. I'm sorry. He's starting to talk about this massive publicity that's, well, if it's that massive, it's going to happen everywhere, isn't it? But also, my question is, didn't Murdaugh lose a bunch of privileges in custody because his lawyers were recording him for a docuseries? Didn't Poot and team, I think it was only Griffin actually, didn't Griffin sit down for multiple docuseries to talk about this and go on Good Morning America? Like, I'm not shading them for doing it. This is now part of the game of being a lawyer in a high profile case. But if you're mad, you're doing it too.
There are two cases I want to cite to the court, both of them the United States Supreme Court cases. Murphy versus Florida, and
Barber looks like his parents are fighting at dinner.
Cited, I'm sorry, at Shepard versus Maxwell.
He looks so
There are two
uncomfortable.
kinds of pretrial publicity that would.
We're well familiar
indicate
with
that
Shepard.
Continuance and or a change of venue required.
This is dumb.
Prejudice is presumed for pretrial publicity when pretrial publicity is sufficiently prejudicial and inflammatory, and the prejudicial pretrial publicity saturated the community where the trials are held.
Have you made a motion for change of venue yet?
Pretrial publicity in a case much less renowned, much less publicized than this one. And Your Honor, to try this case in less than a year after the verdict came in the other case.
He wants to distance them from the murders.
Where are you going to get a jury? Mars? I mean, there's nowhere in this state.
Allendale, Orangeburg, Beaufort.
Where are you going to get a jury? Mars? And Newman's like, no, South Carolina.
Colleton, Hampton.
Appreciate your sense of humor.
It's not a sense of humor. We have many counties where these indictments were issued. I am not presuming that a jury cannot be impaneled, just as the trial that took place on Colleton County,
Good to
there was
see you,
no
Natalie.
motion to change venue.
Yep.
I'm not presuming any prejudice, and the test is not based on speculation.
Yep.
The test is whether or not a jury can be impaneled. You first have to attempt to get a jury according to the law.
What I'm saying is, I think it's being exercised in futility.
Your Honor, he's not bothered by procedure. He's like, Newman, according to the law, you have to try to get a jury first and then see if you can't get one. Newman with the logic.
You know this, we've been interviewing jurors, as you know, in the murder trial.
Oh, we know.
There was a juror who on that jury, who had been excused, been on the jury panel, was in the previous year, and told other jurors, I want on this trial. I want on this trial. And that, I'm afraid, is what happened on that jury. You got a motion for a new trial.
None of that, none of what you just said in court was in your motion. None of that was in your motion. Poot is now in court saying that they have interviewed jurors who said that other jurors were saying, I want on that jury. None of that's in that motion.
The court, the Attorney General is going to file their response tomorrow. We believe the Court of Appeals will order a hearing before a circuit court judge to determine whether or not the corporate court tampered with that jury. And that is very, and so we would go.
This is now just, I think, personal opinion. I speculate that Poot is grandstanding for the media to continue to make his point because none of this has to do with the trial setting.
Forward with another trial while that matter is pending, while that matter is being litigated.
Probably not in Colleton County.
He's like, there are other counties.
The idea that somehow something happens in Colleton County doesn't affect what happens in Beaufort County. I mean, this is a national case. I mean, do they not have television in Allendale County?
I don't.
Do they not have televisions in Allendale County? They might not give a shit, Poot.
Do they not have the internet?
I don't know.
What's the hurry? That's the other point. What is the hurry?
Poot is blending politician with lawyer so much at the moment that it's kind of hilarious, because the court keeps kind of shutting it down, and he keeps shifting the argument. Do you see how the argument has gone from too much pretrial publicity, we can't get a jury, to what's the hurry? What's the rush, Your Honor? We really would like to wait till you retire. What's the hurry?
He's pleading in federal court next Thursday. Every allegation the state has made, the victims will have their day in court. We plead, Mr. Murdaugh indicated he pleads guilty to the state charge, but the state insists on doing them in serial, so they get 3 convictions, so they get life without parole.
That's an interesting allegation. Poot said, for those of you that are tortured by this sound, I'm also tortured by this sound. What Poot said is that he wants to plead to the state charges, and the state wants to do them in order so that they get 3 financial convictions, so that they will get life without parole on the financial convictions, which ensures that if anything happens on the murder convictions, whatever goes on for the years and years and years of murder convictions of appeals, that even if somehow, some way, somewhere the murder convictions are overturned, they still have life without parole on the financial crimes. That's a strategic decision on behalf of the prosecutors, but it answers the question as to why is there no plea here, because the prosecutors have said, yeah, fuck that. That's not happening. Yeah. So, yeah, we would like the life without parole. So you can plead to that, but if you're not going to do that, then we're not going to do this. That makes sense.
Serving 2 life sentences without.
And Poot's going on to say a guy who is already serving 2 life sentences without parole that you're challenging and that are going to be on appeal for years.
Parole. This is just another attempt to get more publicity, to make this another national case. And
I haven't seen Creighton give a goddamn press conference, Poot. The prosecution wants more publicity. Okay.
I'm offended that the Attorney General is waiting. He's got many other cases that are much older than this, but get granted.
I am offended. Poot.
This is another effort in creating a national spectacle. Now, I have some things to say about Mr. Murdaugh at his sentencing. You obviously believe he's guilty of that.
Are you turning around and talking about Judge Newman? Are we talking about Judge Newman? Are we talking about Judge Newman? Your Honor had some things to say at Mr. Murdaugh's sentencing.
You obviously, and the jury found him guilty of that. But I would ask you to put those feelings aside and give us a chance to litigate this jury tampering issue. Allow Mr. Griffith and I to have time, if there is going to be a trial on these, prepare for those trials, which we won't with our calendar for the fall. And third thing is, why doesn't the Attorney General put some distance between the conviction in the murder case and the trial, if there has to be a trial,
They get to choose, Poot, because their witnesses and their brains are already involved in Murdaugh. It's really hard to switch to another case when the witnesses are already lined up. The longer this goes, the more problems there can be. That's why, Poot. You know exactly why. You're a former prosecutor too. You know exactly why. Y'all, Poot insinuating that the judge is somehow biased, I feel like reaches our code audacity. Second, indicating that the prosecutors are trying to make this more of a spectacle when Poot is the one who's courting the media. And again, I'm not shading Poot for doing that. I think it's part of his representation of his client. I think that's exactly what they want to do. But to say, it's so funny to watch them be like, the prosecution's doing this. You're doing it. I hate this. I hate watching people do this. I hate it when you see people say that the other party's doing what they're doing. The gaslighting of it all is so ridiculous that we've got to go to audacity. And that's where we're at. Ha. If it throws off my white balance, I'm sorry. It very well may throw off my white balance.
financial financial cases. I'm, as you know, as a prosecutor, I'm bewildered by this. Certainly they can do it, but why? Why? What is the hurry?
I beg the court's indulgence. He's bewildered by the prosecution wanting to be fucking done with these cases.
Your Honor, this isn't about a spectacle. These white-collar indictments have been investigated by the state grand jury, which is a partnership with the AG and SLED. And these particular, the Satterfield indictments were indicted in November of 2021, just about 2 months after the side of the road happened. This is about allegations that represent an assault on the state judiciary. And because of that, they need to be answered. Your Honor is exactly correct that the law does not presume prejudice. If he wants to file a motion where he cites law, then we can respond, but the law is very clear. It's that you don't presume prejudice, you try to seat a jury. And only through that process can the court then assess whether or not a jury can be seated. We are in 2023. The reality of the media environment is what it is. And unless we're going to say the judicial system just can't function because of publicity, that just leaves nothing left to happen. This is just the reality that we live in. And so we depend on the ability of the system, we depend on the ability of the jury selection process to seat jurors. And that is what should happen. And only if there is an inability to do so can this court then consider whether or not there needs to be some change of venue or some relief or something like that. That
I
is
like that they have to
what the
try
process
first.
should be. And this is a big county, this is Beaufort County, and fundamentally, just as we rely on lawyers, just as we rely on judges to be objective about what they do, and that includes the defense motion here. Okay, we have an objective duty. We also depend, the system depends on jurors to be objective as well. And to just say, because there's publicity, nothing can be done, just throws the system out and leaves no recourse whatsoever. And what the defense can't do is try to essentially run down the street to the federal authorities and bypass the accountability that needs to happen in state court for a direct assault through use of a state law license on this courtroom, Your Honor, on the other courtrooms from the other counties that I named. The state
I feel like I'm being
judiciary
stared at by the
needs-
state senator.
The state judicial system needs to answer for this the allegations of this assault. And that's why this is important. That's why this case has priority, and that's why the state seeks to move it forward.
Briefly, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
The judge
This
sounds
wasn't
tired.
his argument a year ago when he called the murder case first. The murder case was indicted after.
You didn't waive time on the murder case, Poot. At least we can hear him. Poot's easy to hear. I appreciate that.
The financial crimes, and it wasn't that important then. Now all of a sudden, it's the most important thing in the world. I would suggest, Your Honor, that he made a decision to try the murder case first, not the financial crimes, and as a result, we could put in the position, of where we're at today. In addition to that, I would state for the record.
Creighton's still standing. He's like, I'm ready to answer this.
That is Mr. Griffin and my trial schedules in other cases between now and the end of the year.
Barbara's like, do I not exist? Mr. Griffin and my trial schedules. Barbara's like, I'm here.
We would be ineffective in preparing for this trial, any trial.
Your Honor, that is absolutely not what happened. I even said I was happy to try the white-collar cases first. It was the defense's motion for a speedy trial, and Mr. Harpootlian's waiver of his legislative immunity is what it was the defense.
That is exactly what happened.
The speedy trial, and the state said, okay, let's do it.
He was decision to agree with that, Your Honor. It was up to him. He's calling the case today. The solicitor calls the case. The prosecutor.
Poot! The prosecutor can't waive the defendant's time. The disingenuous argument that is rolling freely from Poot's mouth is so staggering to me. That's the misrepresentation of it all is so dumb. Why are we fighting over this? You didn't waive time. The end. Poot. Stop fighting over stupid shit.
We don't call the case. It was his decision. He decided to go with the murder case first.
You didn't waive time. They had no choice.
State is happy to show up in court and seek justice for these very important matters whenever a date can be scheduled. And the only reason the murder went first was because of Mr. Harper.
Agreed. You didn't waive time, sir. It's actually because of Mr. Murdaugh, I guess, technically. Because it's his right to waive time.
The court's not going to defer to Texas in setting a trial date. And a trial date will be set prior to the end of this year. You all have a choice of either the week of November 13th, November 27th.
Ugh. No, don't do that. Bad for jurors.
And there's an Allendale term scheduled.
Excuse me, camera, can we just see the judge?
Or December 11th. You will have a choice of either of those 3 weeks to try whatever case is pending in those individual venues.
Your
You have a
Honor,
week. Pick a case.
confer and email you today on what our preferences are.
No, we can confer and resolve it this morning while we maybe move on to the next matters. We have other matters.
The chat with the spoiler alert that they picked the 27th. We're going to speed up while the defense picks their date.
That way, I couldn't make objections. The 27th would allow us to deal with the other trials.
The 27th will allow us to deal with the other trials.
Really gives us time to prepare for this, because we've already heard my position on that.
Looks like we're getting trial late
November
November.
27th, let's see.
Monday after Thanksgiving.
All right, let's see.
All right. We have a November trial, friends. We're back with Judge Newman. That might be the next live trial that we cover together.
And we're attempting to coordinate it with other existing terms of courts in the various places. All right.
Your Honor, where's the venue on November 27th?
I'm open to whatever venue. The predominant number of cases are pending in Hampton County.
And the state's preference would be to do the Southfields in Beaufort because that is the greatest single loss. But if there are scheduling issues, we will do Hampton. I do believe that it makes the most sense to do that one first just because of the way this case is developed. And so the state would seek to call that one in Beaufort County.
They're arguing about venue and which county it should be tried in and which county might have courtrooms available.
Let's see.
That's fair. For our purposes, it doesn't really matter. They're all just going to switch courthouses, and we're just going to be here. So it's either going to be Beaufort or Hampton, it seems.
November 27th, there is a general sessions terms scheduled here in Beaufort County.
For the 27th?
Yes.
That works for the state, yes, sir. Obviously, I need to coordinate with the solicitor's office as well.
Creighton seems to be like, whatever, set a date. Creighton's like, we'll make it work. Just pick something. We'll make it work. He's like, I will get it figured out, which I appreciate. He's like, let's just get this trial done.
Take care of whatever coordination is necessary, unless there's a death penalty case scheduled that week.
Thank you.
All right, so the case is set for trial on November 27th.
That's Saturday, okay, right?
Is that the matter you're seeking the Satterfield trial?
Yes, sir. Your Honor. That would be person relevance. 2021 GS 4730.
What's the case number of the Satterfield case? So we are going to have another Murdaugh trial in November. I'm going to cover it. These hearings are hard because they are recorded with the camera and the audio's on the camera. We'll get back to having the courtroom microphoned up, hopefully by Court TV, for the for a pool camera for the case as the case goes forward. So we will. It looks like a week-long trial. That's a great length.
Got nothing else, I'm sorry.
Right there at the end of November.
And do y'all want to set a deadline for any motions that might be filed?
Yes, sir. I think that's advisable. I can look at my phone real quick, Your Honor. I would say because of the week prior, obviously, is Thanksgiving, that perhaps the Friday the 10th might be the best day for motions, and then responses to the following week. Maybe by
I will send Newman to bring the jury mug after he
Friday the
retires,
17th.
or I'll send it to the courthouse for him, but not while the case is ongoing.
I think if we have significant pretrial issues, it might even make sense to have a hearing prior to the trial date so that those.
There should definitely be a hearing prior to the trial date.
Ground running that trial week.
Your Honor, none of this is a big concern. I don't know why we just can't deal with it that morning. I mean, our schedules really are complicated. Can't we have the hearing that morning?
Do it at Crime Con.
the
Great, I'll be
morning
there
of the
too.
trial?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Well, a deadline for filing the motions.
I don't have a problem with that. 10 days prior to trial and responses 5 days before trial.
Okay. I think, in effect, that's what you proposed.
Yeah, Your Honor, and I apologize, the 10th is Veterans Day. We could have the motions filed on the 17th.
My God knows I don't have to work on Veterans Day. Oh, my God.
First of all, Poot, it is generally a court holiday. So court generally does not run on Veterans Day. The disrespect is really pissing me off. Him being like, God forbid I wouldn't have to want to work on Veterans Day. You're in South Carolina, sir. I wonder how many veterans elect you to office. The disrespect. Are we shocked?
I know the state government people enjoy these holidays, but we're going to have to rearrange.
I know the state government people enjoy these holidays. You're a government person, Poot. I forget how much he makes me mad.
Major personal items to deal with this. I plan to take Thanksgiving and visit my wife overseas. That ain't happening now.
I'm so sorry that your overseas trip is being canceled because you're representing Alec Murdaugh with over 100 charges against him, Poot. It might be inconvenient to your life.
I've got to call when I leave here to tell it. So, perhaps we'll have to work Veterans Day. I'm sorry.
All right.
Suggest that.
I would say these people next to me work just as hard as they do, and Your Honor saw that.
We'll be working Veterans Day, so why don't you mention it?
That's a deadline.
The fighting between these attorneys is so typical of attorneys that don't get along. But the digs at the government, like, God forbid these government workers have to work on Veterans Day. Normally the courts are closed, so you can't really file anything on Veterans Day. And Poot's like, I was supposed to go overseas and spend Thanksgiving with my wife. Is this how the marriage works? I have questions. How much does Poot's wife live overseas? This seems like an interesting arrangement. It's like, well, if you're going to work all the time, I'm going to go live in Rome. I'm off to Mykonos. Goodbye. I'm curious.
Maybe you'll have it prepared the day before. Veterans Day is on the Friday the 10th, is that it? Well, the deadline will be Thursday the 9th. How about that?
And then responses in 5 days.
And responses in 5 days will determine.
Can we just see the courtroom
whether
camera? I don't
the
need to see
hearing is needed
Poots
prior
tie.
to the 27th.
Thank you.
If you put all of that in order and circulate it to council for any
His wife's an
comment,
ambassador
and I'll
till
sign
Slovenia.
a
That's
written
amazing.
order addressing
Well,
all
I
of
understand why she
what
lives
we
overseas.
just discussed.
I bet we would like Poot's wife better than Poot. I'm just gonna guess. I'm just gonna guess.
All right, anything else we need to talk about in this case?
Also, Poot disparaging the government while actively being a member of government while their wife is actively a member of government. Just saying.
Your Honor, I hate to rise.
I said in this case. No, you're not in this case, are you?
Sit down.
Well, we're coming to you next.
Anything more in this case? He's like, well, actually, the judge is like, you don't go here. Sit down.
I know, I'm just charged with him in the other cases.
You're charged with what?
My client is charged jointly with Mr. Murdaugh and 306. They're not been scheduled.
Well, he's indicated he's calling the State v. Murdaugh, State v. not Murdaugh, yeah, State v. Murdaugh in the Satterfield case. Unless you want to.
They're all laughing together?
voluntarily join
What?
in.
What are they all giggling about at council table?
Your Honor, I do not, we don't voluntarily join in anything.
All right, well,
Your Honor, I apologize.
They're all having a good old time in there.
all right, well, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
They're all having just a pleasant little chat together, aren't they? Oh, man. All right, yes, I don't know why Alec is on a leash. I don't know. It might be procedure. He might have gotten in trouble. It might be standard. I don't know. But he definitely was on a back chain leash, which is odd.
We'll take 2 or 3 minutes and then move back to the Laffitte matter.
All right, let's take 2 or 3 minutes and move back to the Laffitte matter. I'm going to see if I can zoom a little bit to get to that matter quickly so that we are not wasting time when the judge comes back out, because it is more than 2 or 3 minutes. Let's get queued up in multiple hearings this day. All right. I think that should be right. What in the heck?
They have a case now. We have not been through that. I'm going to need the opportunity to do that with this case. That may be very complicated because, again, I don't know today. Perhaps we'll know by next week.
The sound got worse.
Whether he's going to get an appeal bond or not. If he does not get an appeal bond, he's going to be in Coleman, Florida. That's where he's been designated to serve his sentence.
They are talking about Russell Laffitte and the fact that he's been designated to serve time in custody in Florida, but they will hold, if he's pending trial, they'll hold him in local custody. I don't know if he doesn't want to be held in local custody, and that's why they want to wait for the appeal bond.
And I need some time and some access to him to be able to prepare for his defense in this trial.
They can hold him in local custody.
I would again, Mr. Rusford.
This is Russell Laffitte's attorney.
As Your Honor knows, I understand that the second may want to talk about Friday's case in the spring, but I would ask Your Honor to set, and perhaps, I don't know if the state intends to try all 3 of these cases or not. I don't know what the current I think Mr. Waters can speak to that. I'm not the president. But I would ask Your Honor to set those cases for the fall. What I would ask. I can tell you, Your Honor, that I will have motions filed for those cases. But I'm just saying, I don't see physically how I can try this case with this client this fall, given not only that appeal, but this discovery. I would be ineffective, I believe. And I don't want to be ineffective for this matter.
Well, now we have sound. Sorry to everybody in headphones.
Mr. Waters.
Your Honor, as to the discovery, first I'll point out, and I'm not unsympathetic to the fact that Mr. Moore and then much later Mr. Rutherford have now joined the defense team, but that's not the state's fault that Mr. Laffitte changed lawyers. The discovery of this matter had been out for a long time, and again, it is extensive, but as he said, much of the discovery is very similar and were generated by the state grand jury as to things that they've been reviewing in the other matter. The discovery we provided is base labeled, a very detailed Excel sheet that goes through all of that. Ultimately, Your Honor, there is a distinction.
The sound issues are the feed. It's there. Potatoes. Potatoes.
Between what has been previously tried in the federal court, which again it's not what's going on here. In that particular case, what was litigated, what was indicted by the federal government after the state grand jury had indicted the case was Mr. Laffitte's providing it with the $750,000 undocumented loan to Alec Murdaugh, as well as providing the $680,000 to the law firm when all of this started to come to light. And they did present some of the evidence of the underlying victims as the sort of the background to leading up to what they charged here. But what's charged in the state grand jury is the underlying offenses of these victims. The victims being Ms. Thomas, Mr. King Pinckney, Mr. Badger, and that's a distinct matter, and that actually goes back for almost a decade or more. So we believe, Your Honor, that again the state is prepared and happy to come try this case whenever Your Honor finds a date, and we're happy to do it in the fall as well. If that's not going to work, and Mr. Rutherford.
Creighton's like, trial? I live in trial. Let's go to trial. I'm ready for trial. Let's do all the trials. Let's just stack them up and knock them down. He's like, trial, trial, trial. I have an Excel sheet and I am ready. Let's do them all. Let's just go to trial.
Wants to look at something in the spring. I guess we could talk about that, but I think, the fall is really our sweet spot for trying to get some of these things moving. What I don't want to have happen is just to defer anything until all the way to the fall of 24. Again, these cases go to the heart of the South Carolina state judicial system. It's important that these allegations be litigated in court, and just deferring everything into the fall of 24 and going through the same process again in the hopes that something can get scheduled prior to the safe zone being reached again. I just don't think it's appropriate for justice in this particular case. So again, the state is here. The state, if the date gets set, the state will be prepared and ready.
Part of what Creighton's talking about, and I think we can end. I saw a couple requests to end Audacity. It is very tough on the eyes. What Creighton's arguing about too is the fact that if they wait, Poot is going to have to go back to do his duties as a senator. So we're going to end up in a situation where there is a big chunk of time that Poot is unavailable to do trial because he will be back in session in the state legislature. So he's like, I don't want this to go over a year because the Laffitte cases are co-defendants with the Murdaugh cases. Yes, and Todd Rutherford too.
Yes, sir.
One brief point. So I don't necessarily, I didn't try the federal case. Okay, I came in after the fact.
Okay.
But I have reviewed that transcript and I reviewed the indictment, and I don't necessarily agree with Mr. Waters. The federal government didn't just charge those two back fraud counts. They charged an underlying mail-in wire fraud and bank fraud conspiracy that included the conduct reflective of Mr. Laffitte and Mr. Murdaugh's dealings with the alleged victims who were in this case. So there were counts that dealt with those victims. I tell Your Honor that to tell you that because I think Your Honor should know that those folks testified. But the one thing that is, and I'll tell you what I have not done yet, I have not tried to relate the discovery that we've gotten in this case with the discovery in the federal case. They're different, but in this case, there's the testimony of 30 separate grand jury witnesses before the state grand jury. I haven't read those transcripts, John.
Oh my God. There are 30 separate grand jury witnesses, Your Honor. I have not read those transcripts. Can you send them to me? I'll read them. I volunteer as tribute. I'll read them and then I'll cover them. I mean, you shouldn't use that as your defense work, but I'll read them. If you want to send them, I'll read them. I like this dude. He is expressive.
When is the first
I'm amused.
time you appeared at a status conference in this case?
He's like, I have not read them. And Judge Newman's like, how long have you been on this case, though? Because not my problem if you didn't do your homework.
Requested more time.
I appeared at the status conference, I believe, back in April, Your Honor, and we've been dealing with the federal case ever since. And I understand that the federal case is different than the state case, but I was not aware until today that we might be talking about trying a case in fall. And that's on me, okay? And if I have to get ready, I have to get ready. But I have not read all 30 of those transcripts.
Sir, you've got some reading to do.
I have not. I have looked at a couple, but I have not read all 30 of them. I have not.
Is Owen Wilson's older brother in court?
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Even back in April, we were saying that we were ready to try the case whenever a date could be set, and expressed then that we were looking at the fall. And I think that Mr. Rutherford had just joined the defense team the day before, and I remember the exchange very clearly. He said, well, I haven't even gotten the discovery yet. I was like, well, just joined the case yesterday. So, I mean, again, the defense has had this discovery for a long time. This is September now. This is 5 months later. And again, I understand the difficulties the defense is facing, but this case has been indicted. The discovery's been to the defense team.
Here's the thing about the defense team. They chose this. This has not been thrust upon them. They chose this. You took this client. This is your problem. You have to apportion out the work. Where is your research attorney to read them and then highlight them for you? Where?
For an extended period, and if we don't get this done before the end of the year, then we're looking at the fall of 24. And I just
And that
think
sucks.
it's too long to wait for the importance of the allegations here.
When is the other co-defendant's trial scheduled? Is that Roberts or
That is December 18th.
is it Roberts?
Yes, sir.
December 18th?
Yes, sir.
The court's like, well, we're working into Christmas. What are we doing? What are we doing? I don't know what's happening. I'm going to answer some questions and say hello while we're waiting for all of this, because I don't feel like zooming. I would live in Rome too if I was Poot's wife. So yes, that's fair. Poot's wife is an ambassador. I am very curious. I need to know more. I'm curious.
What was the length of the federal trial?
I believe it was 2.5 when you count actual days, Judge.
2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks, Your Honor. When you count opening statements and jury deliberations, I believe it was 2.5 weeks.
All right.
So he said 2.5 weeks all done in the federal case?
Mr. Rutherford?
No.
Yes, sir. Anything you want to add to the discussion?
Your Honor, this is, as has already been stated, a case that took 2.5 weeks to try in federal court. These are allegations that our client has already been convicted of. Judicial economy asserts that he has already been convicted. He is appealing that case. We're working on that appeal, trying to get that into the Fourth Circuit. The state has the ability to call any case they want to and keep their foot on the gas, but this is all that they get to focus on. Judges can't make them call other cases the way the judges have made me work on others. To try to.
He's saying it's hard to be a defense attorney. It's hard out here to be a defense attorney. Emma asked a great question. What is the reason for today's hearing? This hearing was from last week. I didn't cover it live. There were lots of breaks. It's so much easier to zoom it up. This hearing was for status and trial setting on all of the outstanding Murdaugh cases and to kind of figure out what was going to go next. So they're like, well, the state gets to pick. Yep, they do. You find a lot of people who like to have control over their lives in the prosecutor's seat because the defense gets stuck a lot with what the prosecution chooses to do. When they choose to indict cases, when they choose to bring them, when they choose to ask for trial, the defense doesn't get to do a lot of the calendaring, but they also get more room to continue cases than the prosecution does. And when there's breaks for government, then you've got a different dynamic here.
Murder case 2 weeks ago in Spartanburg, that was a 2017 case. Almost every case that I have scheduled between now and the end of the year is older than this one. And several of them that I have are also with the Attorney General's office. Whether they call them, schedule them, but I is up to them, not up to me. What I foresee them doing is trying to assert that they're ready, willing, and able to go. They'd love to do it in the spring. They just want me to waive my legislative immunity. Which, Your Honor, for the record, I'd happily do if they waive their ability to call cases whenever they get ready. If they waive their ability to only work on one case solely. We don't have that ability.
I doubt they're working on one case solely. However, Creighton might only be working on Murdaugh shit because there's over 100 charges. But it was not my experience that I got to ever just work on one case. He's like, if they stop being them.
The case that Mr. Arpulian spoke of earlier in federal court in December, I have a similarly situated co-defendant. Their client is actually on trial. Mine is not, but possibly scheduled for that same week because it's the same fact.
Not the week of.
So he and Poot have other co-defendants together as well.
November 27th.
Not the week of November.
Okay.
And as they have already stated, that week is reserved for the case that they decide to call, which involves the Satterfields, not the case that is connected to our client. And so that's what they chose to do. They have not told us exactly which case they choose to proceed on. And during the break, he said, that's up to him as to which case he's going to proceed on.
It is up to him.
And it is.
He should give them a heads up.
Until that point, Your Honor, 41,000 documents. There's a transcript that goes for 2.5 weeks in federal court.
Talk to the Idaho defense attorneys.
There's no way that any lawyer could be prepared on between now and the end of the year if they're going to do their client a service so that the state can have justice. Justice at what cost, I'm not really sure. I know that there are victims in other cases that are awaiting their date. I was in court yesterday.
There's a lot going on.
On a 2016 case and had to answer to Judge Colbert as to why the case was so old. Well, this is the reason why cases get old. Prosecutors get to decide when they call it. They get to decide when they get to put on the gas and stay there and demand that a case that was indicted in April of 22 now must go to trial before the end of the year, pushing aside every other case that is much older.
I mean, I get his frustration. I don't think it's going to go very far, but I get his frustration.
And got his designation in federal.
Not a surprise.
There is absolutely no reason, Your Honor, we would assert
I like that the
So
judge
this
is letting
case,
everybody be heard. He's like,
so
just say what you need to
it would
say.
require for a December date that I not be present during JMSC for the entire month, where we're screening, I believe, almost 100 candidates for judicial seats. There's no way to do that and prepare for this. My schedule, Mr. Moore's schedule, the attorneys that work for us, getting together with Mr. Laffitte, it would require what the state already has the ability to do, which is put everything to the side, work on what they want. We don't have that ability. When they waive that and give that up, I will give up my immunity. They will not, I will not. And that is why I believe that a trial date placing us in the fall is reasonable. The fall of 24 is reasonable, given the factual circumstances in this case.
And Your Honor, if I could just add one other comment that's,
Great.
if Mr. Laffitte's federal appeal is unsuccessful and his conviction and sentence is upheld, then he may have decisions to make about these cases that might not require a trial. And so I tell Your Honor that because I don't think anyone wants to go through a trial and put the taxpayers to that extent if necessary. And I tell Your Honor that because I think I'll.
All right, Mr. Waters?
Your Honor, as to Mr. Rutherford's comments, he knows full well, of course, that when he's talking about cases in a particular circuit of the Solicitor's Office, that I have no control over that. What I do have involvement in and control over is the state grand jury charges. And obviously, Your Honor has been assigned by the Chief Justice of the South Carolina Supreme Court to preside over these matters. And so that's what we're here to deal with today, not what's going on in a different circuit in some other case. Mr. Rutherford,
really
get involved in this matter. I'm not.
I really do appreciate Creighton just bringing back the focus and being like, you chose to get involved in this case. You knew what this case was when you chose to be a defense attorney here. You nobody's making you be here.
Unsensitive to scheduling issues, but the state is here to say that if Your Honor sets a trial date, we will be ready and willing to try that case. And again, state grand jury, it's its own docket, it's its own method of going forward. And what the state grand jury focuses on are cases like this that are can be complex white collar cases and cases that have a lot of underlying importance to the system itself. And again, my charge and the charge that was given to me by the Attorney General is to prosecute state grand jury cases, and that's what we're here to do. That's completely separate from the dockets that Mr. Rutherford may be dealing with in a different circuit.
Creighton's like, I got a job to do.
So
we're, with regard to Russell Laffitte, he's already been convicted of the federal crimes. So I understand his defense attorneys being like, why are we doing this charade of a state trial? He's already been convicted. Can we just plea? The state has a reason not to do it. We've heard the state's reason not to do it. It's Stack's time. That's a whole conversation about whether that is a fair way to do sentencing or how they do things in South Carolina. That is a different conversation for a different day. Creighton gets to choose how he proceeds on that, not the defense. And then the defense can argue it to the judge later. But the defense attorneys do get to choose their clients in this circumstance. So not all circumstances, but in this circumstances.
we believe that we're here, and again, he's saying that I'm calling the cases. We're here to say, Your Honor, give us a date, and we will try one of these cases.
Rachel, thank you for the gifted memberships.
The two Hampton cases together, they are similarly, they were both part of the same action. The Allendale case is a different case. That would need to be somewhere else. So if there was a case to do, it would probably be Hampton. We could do the two indictments there. But we are willing to.
He's like, I'll work with you. Let's just get it done.
Your Honor finds a date that works.
And Your Honor, what I would say back to that briefly is, if he wants to consolidate the Hampton cases, he didn't indict them together, I guess he'd have to make a motion to consolidate them, and then we'd have to respond. And I'm not in a position to tell Your Honor exactly what my position would be today. But I'll do whatever.
You were complaining about how inconvenient it was. Wouldn't consolidating them make it less inconvenient?
Okay. Anything further?
point, I think we're done, Your Honor. But happy to answer any questions.
When do you expect to know whether Mr. Laffitte will have to report to the federal institution?
Well, as I think I told Your Honor the last time we were together, which was a couple of weeks ago in King Street, I expected to know today, and that's one of the reasons why we all talked about setting the status conference today. I expected to know today. Our briefing has been concluded in the Fourth Circuit for several weeks now. And the Fourth Circuit is aware of the fact that Mr. Laffitte has a report date is next Thursday, a week from today. I've talked to the United States
Everybody's
Attorney's
back in
Office
court on the 21st.
Asking Judge Gergel. Judge Gergel has deferred his report date once because of the pendency of the Fourth Circuit's decision. If we don't have a decision today, and I'm expecting that we're not, Judge, I just checked my email to see if I'd seen anything, and we don't have a decision. If we don't have a decision today, I'm going to ask Judge Gergel today or tomorrow to extend his report date one more time, and the governor told me they'd tell me what their position was at the end of the day today. I had that discussion with them yesterday, not this morning, but yesterday. But as Your Honor understands, if he does get a report date, and his appeal bond is denied, and he is transferred to Coleman, that's going to make it way more difficult for us to get ready to try a case this fall. Way more difficult.
Way more difficult to try the case this fall.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, because I won't have access to it. He asked for a designation. Judge Gergel asked the Bureau of Prisons to designate him to Jessup. They designated him to Coleman in Florida, which is about 5 hours away.
What he's arguing is it's going to get harder to prepare for trial with his client because his client is getting sent to prison in Florida. However, arrangements can be made for, Judge, they could order his bond revoked, I guess, and say, all right, well, he's not on bond in this case anymore. Transfer him to local custody. He might just not want to do that, but they could put him in custody on this case too and hold him in local custody. So he's earning time on both. But the federal prison system can put you anywhere. So they've decided to put him in Florida, but he can be held locally in South Carolina if he's pending trial. That's not like a huge problem to
have the ability to request where someone serves their time.
Judge Gergel has the authority to,
I need to find out the judge's real name because it sounds like Judge
recommend
Gergel
to the Bureau,
or Gargle.
not order, but recommend to the Bureau of Prisons that a person be incarcerated in a particular location. The Bureau of Prisons does not always, and regularly does not.
They do not honor that necessarily.
That is, I don't have that authority. The judge has that.
Did he accept your recommendation?
Judge Gergel recommended that the Bureau of Prisons incarcerate him in FCI Jessup, and the Bureau of Prisons.
Thank you,
What state is that in?
Jessup is in Georgia. It's less than an hour from his home. It's sort of right over the Georgia
He's like,
border.
no, that's not. He's like, that's not accurate.
And the Bureau of Prisons' general rule is that they're going to try to place you no less than 500 miles from where you reside, and he is in Coleman.
All right, any other words of wisdom?
I like Judge Newman's sense of humor. Judge Newman's sense of humor is any other words of wisdom. He's so ready for them to be done. What is going on with the microphones? I don't know. We don't control it. So.
I got plenty of it out.
Well, I think we'll defer any decision about a trial date today until we can review things maybe in another month or 6 weeks or so and see where it all stands.
Thank you, Your Honor. We very much appreciate that.
All right. All right.
And Your Honor, I assume that if he gets a report date and we know he's going to be transferred immediately, Your Honor would expect me to notify the court.
Yes, sir. Very well.
Thank you, Your
All
Honor.
right. Thank you all.
You can see where they have the mics facing the lawyers on the stand here that are the television mics, but it is still pretty rough. Let's see what the court is doing next, but I'm going to get to Q&A soon. We're 3 hours in, so we're going to have to do the sentencing part later. I don't know if they do any more scheduling. Let's just look real quick at what gets called next. I think it's the Corey Fleming sentencing, and we will do the sentencing on Thursday. Because it's just a busy week. Sarah Reddy said, yeah, did you see that memo about the TPS reports? That's funny. Right. I'm going to see what they call next. I'm going to answer some questions.
We'll take 5 minutes and then proceed with Fleming.
All right, so they're going to Fleming next, and that we will be doing on Thursday. That is a long sentencing, but we're going to hear from some of the same victims that we're going to hear from in the coming trials. So because we're at 3 hours already in, and because I do have, sadly, other things I have to do, we will do the Fleming sentencing Thursday, and we will do, so Corey Fleming and Corey Richards on Thursday. Tomorrow is going to be the blind side. I want to get to questions because I want to chat with y'all. So you've got questions. I've got questions. We've got questions. It's time to fact around and let's get to all of those questions. Oh, maybe we should do a summary. Hold on. Let's do a quick summary. As to Murdaugh, he is pleading guilty to 22 charges from the federal indictment. He is pending trial in over 101 state-level financial crime indictments. Poot said on the record during the hearing that we watched today that the state does not want to let Alec Murdaugh plea because they want the 3 indictments on financial crimes, so he gets life without the possibility of parole on the financial crimes. That is a strategic choice on the part of the prosecution, because if something happens to the murder conviction, it still holds him on these other convictions. So this is really just making sure that no matter what happens from here, Alec Murdaugh spends the rest of his life in prison. That's my takeaway from what Poot said in court. Of course, Poot was just like Putin all around with it and being like, they're doing this and they're doing that. But we also have defense attorneys in multiple cases who are members of the state government. And so they have to waive their work to be in trial during the time that the legislature is in session. And what we keep hearing from Creighton Waters is, I don't want these cases to get pushed out to the fall of 2024. And that's a very real possibility here. So we have the Gloria Satterfield charges for the theft of money from Gloria Satterfield's estate and sons set for trial in November. We will be covering that when it goes to trial. I'll be covering the pretrial hearings. We've seen a lot of those facts. We've seen it argued in the civil cases. So that is going to trial in November. We're going to have to podcast and blog all of it because that's what Poot wants us to do. Obviously, he wants us to blog and podcast the entire thing. So we're going to oblige and do that. So I will be covering that. We will be back in South Carolina after Thanksgiving. For those of you asking why not spring, because of the legislative session. So the defense attorneys aren't available because of the sessions of the legislature in South Carolina. So that is why. So it's fall or fall. The only reason the trial happened when it did for the murder trial is because Poot waived his legislative immunity to be in that trial because Alec Murdaugh did not waive time. So with all of that said, that is our summary of what's going on with Murdaugh, pleading in federal, going to trial in state, asking for a new trial in the murder case. There are a lot of moving parts, and there will continue to be a lot of moving parts in this case because there are so many indictments. I've seen a lot of you in the chat saying that Poot's frustration or Poot's statement about podcasters clinging to their 15 minutes of fame was a dig specifically at Mandy Matney, who ran the Murdaugh Murders podcast that is now under True Sunshine and runs Cup of Justice with Eric Bland and others. It might have also been a dig at Eric Bland in court, which is funny because Jim Griffin also started a podcast. It's like, doesn't everybody have a podcast? I mean, don't we all just have a podcast? I have a podcast. It's called The Emily Show. Poot! I have a podcast. It's called The Emily Show. So yes, it might have been a dig, but I just thought it was funny because whenever you live rent-free in somebody's head, it's kind of a hilarious thing when people are like, when they can't stop talking about you. It's a weird thing. It's just a strange thing. And so to see Poot still be that bothered is just kind of funny. All right. Can I share something with you guys? So I got a letter in the mail. I'm going to share a quick mail time and then we're getting to questions. I got a letter in the mail from Kendra Scott, who makes these earrings, and she sent me the diamond version of these earrings. And I want to show them to you because you might see them on stream. I might have to wear them another time, but I was absolutely blown away by receiving these. Just it absolutely just blew me away. The after seeing, I don't know where, but after seeing these earrings on stream, that I got sent the fine jewelry diamond version of the same earrings. Can you see those? Aren't they adorable? So I might have to wear those on stream as a thank you. They're so beautiful. I was absolutely blown away by the very kind handwritten note and the lovely earrings from Kendra Scott. So even though I've never been sponsored, I love these earrings. They're just absolutely beautiful. And I think that they're just super flattering on my face. And so I've always worn them, but I love it. I love it. So let's get to questions. Anyway, I had to share it because I was just like, oh, that's so kind. I saw a question about the legislative immunity. They don't have to appear in court. Like this is my understanding. They have time when they're in session, when the courts cannot force them to be in court. So Judge Newman cannot say, you are going to be in trial date XYZ, because if they are in legislative session, the court can't force them to be in court or in trial or have court hearings. Everything gets put over during that time. Normally, the court can force you to come to court. I'm setting it this day. You don't have to be in another court elsewhere. You're coming to court this day. When they are in session, they are not required to be in court and be in trial, and the court can't make them. That. So can Judge Newman delay retirement? I don't think Judge Newman can delay retirement, Yvette. Wait, where did it go? I don't think Judge Newman can delay retirement, but he might be able to sit after his retirement because it's a forced retirement based on age by statute. I think that they should allow him to sit in retirement. So technically retired, but sitting for this case. But I think he would have to technically retire. So thank you guys. It's fun. It was fun to share the earrings with it. Rebecca said, your long bob was the inspo I needed to donate. Pledge. 16 inches of hair to wigs for kids after growing out my hair for 4 years. Rebecca, that's absolutely incredible. You are our Rebecca with the good hair in here. What a kind donation. And I hope you're loving it. I need it to be just a little bit longer, but I am loving it. It feels so good. It feels so good. JW Mama, I covered this a little bit earlier. I'm going to cover it again because I know we have people flux in and out throughout the stream. Yes, Corey Richins on Thursday. So yes. South Carolina law requires judges retire the same calendar year as their 72nd birthday. And I get it. Like, I get it. I get the mandatory retirement age. I mean, we see that in government. There are times where I'm like, should there be an age? Should there not be an age? But everyone's so different. Everyone's cognitive abilities are different. You know, there are some, excuse me, who would be incredible jurists at 72, and some that might not be incredible at 62 or 52. It's a hard thing. So, in asking you guys which cases had the most publicity, Depp v. Heard was 80% Idaho College, 10% Murdaugh, 8, Paltrow 0. Paltrow was definitely a very quick, like, whoosh, just a very quick hit of like immediate publicity right during the trial and then gone. Depp v. Heard, you can't get away from it. Like, it just keeps going and going and going. And clearly publications, Netflix, and the rest of it, people are still interested in the case. So they are still wanting to see what's going on with that case. And that case pulled the largest international audience that I have seen. So I know Poot wants to be like, this is the most high profile case of all time. It's like, I mean, it is a high profile case. It is a high profile case. But is it the mostest high profile case? I don't think so. But it has spawned excuse me. It has spawned podcasts and books and multiple docuseries, some of which the defense has been a part of. So, yes, it's a high-profile case. Is it the most high-profile case? Probably not. Anna said the defense motion said they were told in the courtroom shortly after the verdict to look at things that happened in the jury room. How did someone in the courtroom know? I don't know. That's part of what the prosecution's asking for. The prosecution's asking for more specificity. So they want more specificity in that. McLinda said, I'm late. No need to apologize. I am always late. Not there yet, but must know. In the event of a new trial, can Murdaugh's testimony in the original trial be used to impeach him in the new trial? Yes, it can be. If he testifies again, it can be used to impeach him. Of course, rules of evidence apply, but yes, it can be. Your prior trial testimony. And that's not just for Murdaugh. Any witness that comes in and testifies, if law enforcement comes in and testifies differently, then they will also be impeached. Anyone who testified can be impeached with witness testimony. So, death and taxes only guarantee in life feels like it. I asked my husband who loves history, and surprisingly, he said he doesn't think about the Roman Empire. I'm more than a little shocked. Brandy, right? That is. Stina G said, does forfeiting property include the approximately $4 million in trust from his dad? Is he able to get to that, or would he be able to sign it to Buster? I don't know what's going on with the trust. I have a lot of questions about that, but I don't know who to ask other than the federal prosecutors, and they haven't made that clear. So, let's continue on. Do you think this deal looks like Alec Murdaugh is confident in the murder verdict being overturned? No. I think this deal looks like we're not going to beat the federal charges, so we might as well stop having our attorneys pay attention to that case. We need to focus on what's in front of us. But no, I don't think he looks like he thinks the murder verdict will be overturned. For me, the federal plea deal looks like an acquiescence that no matter what happens with the murder case, the financial charges and the financial crimes will keep him in custody also for the rest of his life. So even if even if on the outside chance that the murder conviction is overturned and a new trial is granted and it's not retried, or a new trial is granted and he's acquitted, even if all of that happens, he's still going to be in potentially for life without parole on the financial crimes. So it's an acquiescence. It doesn't truly, it matters in the types of crimes he's charged with. I mean, for him personally, but there's not much else there. Question, I just got a summons as a witness to a DUI case that I called in last summer. Reach out to whoever's on the summons and ask them when they need you there, and then say what you remember if you remember. But DUI cases are pretty common. They do go to trial, but that testimony normally looks like, did you make this call? Yes. Did you say these things? And that is about it. Melanie Ann Plans says, replay crew member, happy to catch you live. Going to be watching while I work. Any updates on the clerk of courts with Murdaugh? We did that today. It'll be timestamped for the replay crew. Hey, Matt Bond. It's good to see you. Good to see everyone. I say hello as well. Captain Wee the Barmy, good to see you. We wish ye a merry Talk Like a Pirate Day. Oh my God, it is Talk Like a Pirate Day. I need to wish my friend Sasha a happy birthday. It's September 19th. I need to remember to text Sasha. May ye all steer clear of Davy Jones' locker. I totally forgot it was International Talk Like a Pirate Day. I couldn't have done the whole show as a pirate. Arr. Thank you for the compliments. I will always take them. Mary said, just got through the first round for a new job. Congratulations. I love seeing all the member chats. Motion to get an EDB air emoji. I can do that if I don't forget. I'll make a note. In to the members chat yesterday, I have been binge watching BBC's Time Team. Sunday, husband and I had a 2-hour combo about the Roman conquest. I am going to have to binge watch stuff about the Roman Empire. I'm here. Jasper said, I haven't thought about the Roman Empire since college. I was so confused by this whole thing. The fact that it's a thing is confusing to me too. I still feel like there's a conspiracy and like some people are in on the joke and some of us aren't in on the joke. It's so confusing. Ask how guys took their shirt off because that threw me. I mean, and who takes their pants off if they have to poop? This is something I learned being on a men's water polo team, as to who completely disrobed from the waist down to sit down and poop. I was blown away. I love the conversations of what? Jenny said, my husband always says another cup. Chat's like, I'm sorry, what? Oh, start asking. Ask people if they disrobe from the waist down. Totally taking off the pants. Like totally taking off the pants and underwear. It's called a Costanza. I didn't know it had a name. This is something I didn't know until high school when there was a conversation about it on a bus ride. And then I was like, yo, what? There was also the one time we had a team meeting inside the locker room and one of the members of my water polo team completely disrobed from the waist down to sit on the toilet because they were like open air style toilets, to sit on the toilet in the locker room and poop while we were in the middle of a team meeting. This is that is a memory unlocked that I didn't need to unlock. My partners think of Rome, but he is a history teacher. I mean, that is fair to be like, there's a context for it. I think of the Aztec Empire and Mesoamerican civilizations daily, but that makes sense since I don't know what Exlos is. Exolos? Solos? I don't know what that is, Tamara, but I'm fascinated. To be fair, Hogue is a gamer and probably played Age of Empires, Age of Mythology, Ancient City Building Games, Greece, Rome, Egypt. It doesn't surprise me that he has a ranked list. It doesn't surprise me that he has a ranked list. He also probably knows a ton about history because I feel like Hogue knows everything. Thank you, Tiny Treasure. I'm going to say astrology, Taylor Swift, and murder. That's fair. Water polo players are too comfortable with being water polo players are pretty comfortable with being naked. The Wanderer said, I work at the fire department. The discussion is now all about ancient Rome. FYI, one of our team is in Rome right now. We are blaming Delta. That's fair. That's fair. Have you gone down the Odin rabbit hole yet? No, I saw the motion filed in the Delphi case. I have not had a chance to read it. I have seen some of the headlines and I have gone, oh, this is not a live stream, but a podcast episode. Yeah, that's for later this week. I don't have time to go down the rabbit hole until like Friday. Amy said, I will add murder to my Target, Starbucks, and Pawnards list. Zolos is a Mexican dog. Thank you, chat. You are Aztec dogs and they are hairless. That's fascinating. Ancient Roman poets and political theory. Amazing. I love the suggestions. I think about Rome because of philosophy and the Stoics. Okay. I mean, when I think of the Stoics, I don't necessarily connect them to thinking about the Roman Empire because I see it in my brain as generally thinking about the foundations of law. But I do think about the Stoic philosophers maybe more than the average bear. Elena said, I asked my husband how often he thinks about the Roman Empire. I quote, almost 3 times a month. Antonius Pius was a bastard, but he did revolutionize infrastructure. I love this so much. I absolutely love it. As an aside, I'm 39 and just got diagnosed with ADHD because you made me realize that was what my brain was doing. Thanks for that, game changer. Congratulations, Ariel. That's very, very exciting. It's always better to know. Information is power in so many ways. Oh, sweetie, no, said I have a series of responses. Husband, never. Brother, almost every day. Stepdad, couple of times a month. Son, once a week or so. Have you had fun asking everybody? I am delighted by it. I am absolutely delighted by asking everyone. Did you see that Murdaugh's lawyers are claiming the court clerk tampered with the jury? Oh, Zoe, I covered that motion on a stream. I covered the response to that motion on this stream. Yes. Yep. First live, I figured out super chat. Congratulations. EDB, I love this space. Found you with Spidey at the AH dumpster fire interview. Been hooked ever since. Love my Stanley's Losses Pondered merch. Awesome. Goat and Pickle, thank you for being an ear in my ear on the daily. You rock. You are welcome and thank you. Nicole said fall is nuts. Band comps started last week. Yes, they did. And yes, it's busy. We had a very good week last week competition-wise. Hubby says he does all the time and he has no social media. Seriously, why? I don't think we're being punked. I think we've just stumbled into a quirk of the universe. The ADHD conversation is what inspired me to start my channel. Nicole has ADHD. I love that. That particular channel with Runkle and Rob and I and Hogue just being like all the things. It's still small, but growing a community for us to learn and connect. I love that. All the communities. Community is so fun. I am just consumed with thinking of the NSYNC tour. I need it to happen. I need it to happen. I need it to happen. Kevin said, as a trans femme person, I do not think about Rome. See? I love all the perspectives of the Law Nerd chat. I love it. Chat, you always inspire and educate. Allison just said, a coworker just said, what's the Roman Empire? Oh, that's a different direction. Benjamin said, this sort of thing is what men are thinking about when they say nothing. I'm a New Zealander and I think about empires and history and weapons, etc. Yes, when men are quiet and silent, maybe that's it. They just don't chat as much and their brain is occupied with the Roman Empire. I just asked my 2 male coworkers, one yes, one no. Yes was in reference to downfall. That seems to be the reference here. Thanks, Miguelina. Tell me you don't have a mental load without telling me you don't have a mental load. Happy sunshine. This is an excellent point. I don't have space in my brain to think about the Roman Empire. This is a very fair point. To be like, I am worried that I forgot to move the laundry, so the mental load is different. So I don't have the brain space for the Roman Empire. I definitely need to talk about the Roman Empire. I heard the equivalent of the Roman Empire for women is murder. I wonder if it's serial killers. I really do. Off topics. Did you ask for any accommodations for ADHD while in college? I'm considering asking for a deadline accommodation. Accommodations weren't quite as easy as they are now. We asked for a lot of accommodations for my kids. I had some. I should have asked for more. I regret that I didn't ask for more in law school. And I think part of it for me, your mom's new account, I think a part of it is the exercise in advocating for yourself and becoming more comfortable for it. Even if you're not going to use all the accommodations, getting used to advocating for yourself in that way before you get into the workforce, I think is very helpful, because I found it uncomfortable to ask for what I needed. And I wish I had done it. I wish I had exercised that more and practiced it more. And college is a really safe space, or should be a really safe space, to practice asking for what you need. And then you learn more what you need. So if you ask for this and it doesn't work, you can ask for other accommodations. And if you have a good counselor at school, hopefully they can help guide you as to what is even available. Talk to others who have accommodations about what accommodations are available. Almost anything can be sorted out. So yes, you should absolutely ask. I wish I had asked for more help. As I get older, I learn a lot about how to ask for more help. And it's something I wish I had done better. The female equivalent is the British royal family. Maybe. I watch a lot about Egyptian queens. Queens are fascinating. Timu now has a cabinet organizer for these flasks. Wait, for these ones? Which ones? Michael Toast, good to see you. Insert air horn here. Hold on, I didn't do it. That one was really loud. Curious how many fellow women think about it. I don't know. We'll have to break it down. Question: if polygraphs are not admissible in court, why is the government relying on them in this manner? I don't know. I don't know why they're asking for it in this. I think, again, it's acquiescence on Murdaugh's part. I don't know why. Michelle said, question: have you seen BJ Investigates lawsuit? I have not seen that. I will go look, but I have not. Why doesn't the public get access via camera coverage in federal trials? Federal court do not allow recording of trials. I think it needs to change, but they have a court rule. They do not allow video, audio, nothing. I think that's going to have to change. Michael said, it's been a while since I've been able to catch a live, but I'm glad I caught this one. You rock as always. Thank you. Your uplifting attitude inspired me to finally take a chance on a big life trajectory change. Congratulations. It's scary and it's always worth it, even though it feels scary. C. Lynn said, I listen to your Debt Be Heard videos every single night. I thought I was weird, but there's a whole community of us. I'm happy to play in the background as you sleep. I'm here for you. I listen to a lot of things that are kind of like become like white noise to me as I sleep. So I will listen to audiobooks. I will listen to calm sleep stories. I definitely listen to things as I fall asleep. I didn't realize how much of a neurospicy thing that was until I started talking to other neurospicy friends who were like, oh no, I need to basically be read to sleep. It just, my brain works that way. An ear hair from Bezos. You were my first intro to the law world. I do pure math and am fascinated by foundations of arguments. You've opened up a new world that resonates with me. I'm grateful for your presence, kindness, and knowledge. That's so incredibly kind. Thank you. It is a whole different world. And I also love exploring it with y'all because y'all are the best. Not only are you smart, you're funny, you're well hydrated, you maintain healthy boundaries. I love this chat. Medicated Moment said, boyfriend, before I heard about this nonsense on the radio, maybe 10 to 20 times a year. So still happened, but now it's all the time. I will look this up. I will not, Alcibiades, I will not pronounce that well, but I will. Alison Troy. What's the Roman Empire? And I can't even say it's a generational thing because my kid is just like, yeah, obviously. The response is like, but you don't, are so funny to me. So funny to me. All right, y'all. I am going to wrap. It has been a lovely live stream. Tomorrow, the podcast goes on live on audio first and then on video. I will be there in the chat. Then Thursday, we will be live talking about the Coreys. And then we will plan for the following week. Make sure that you are signed up at Law Nerd Alert so that you can stay in the loop on all that we have coming up and schedule shifts. I'm going to be traveling for conferences at the end of the month and then next month as well. Well, the end of this month, beginning of October, and then in November as well. So we're going to keep you guys in the loop on some stream shifts and schedule shifts as are going to happen in the fall. It's fall. It's fall. Members only live stream Wednesday night. There will be posts in your members only spaces. For those of you that were gifted memberships today, those will be available to you too. So I will see you Wednesday, that's tomorrow evening, for the members only live stream. So with all of that, take care, Law Nerds. May your dreams be filled with the Roman Empire or not, depending on where you fall. Like now I need to know why I should be talking about it all the time. I need to know. Now I need to know. All right, y'all. This Dark Unicorn's out. I'll see you later. You can find all the Law Nerd goodies at lawnerdshop.com. Connect with me on social media at The Emily D. Baker. And don't forget to check out my podcasts, The Emily Show, and the new podcast, Quick Bits, summarizing everything I talk about on my Tuesday and Thursday live streams. You know, when you only have time for just the quick bits.